Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Sunday, November 16th, 2025, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to you boy if you can. Cash App $ ORION NWSF or the YouTube super chat right here. We got the Detroit Lions versus the Philadelphia Eagles here on Sunday Night Football. Kickoff is going to be here in just about 5 minutes. So let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and let's get ready for some Sunday Night Football. Happy Sunday, everyone. And on the thumb, on the left, one of the best wide receivers in the game, Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Detroit Lions. And on the right, top 5 quarterback in the league, Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts. And again, this should be a great one, right? 7-2, 3-1 record at home for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Detroit Lions are 6-3 with a 3-2 record on the road. You know, this is a battle for NFL supremacy and specifically NFC supremacy to be at the top. And again, we saw some pretty competitive, games here early on. Buccaneers versus the Bills just didn't have enough against Josh Allen. Earlier today, we saw the Rams just nip the Seattle Seahawks there in the fourth quarter, and the Denver Broncos just getting past the Kansas City Chiefs with a late second field goal. So again, you're starting to see kind of how things are starting to shape up, as far as the top teams in the AFC and the NFC. And definitely they saved one of the best games for last, the Lions versus the Eagles. Let's get it, baby. Daniel in the building, what's good? Marine Bean in the building, what's good? And we'll be shooting for 100 likes, 100 on the Dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Again, let's go over some of the scores that we had from earlier today. Obviously, we had the Dolphins beating the Commanders 16-13 in Madrid. Pretty low scoring affair there, but the Dolphins getting the victory at the end of the matchup. Panthers winning 30-27 in OT. Big win for the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young, and a devastating loss if you're an Atlanta Falcon fan. Bills 44, Buccaneers 32. And again, if you're, looking at, the 4 losses that the Buccaneers have, they're to the Eagles, the Lions, the 2 teams that are playing today, and then the Patriots and the Bills. So again, we haven't had Bucky Irving for like 6 games. So again, for us to be able to compete, with the top dogs like the Lions, the Eagles, the Patriots, and the Bills, I need Mike Evans, I need Chris Godwin, and I need Bucky Irving. And, there's not very many teams that can win games against other really good teams if they don't have their RB1 or their starting 2 wide receivers on top of some defensive injuries as well. But again, we played tough, kind of towards the end, kind of gave it up. But again, I'm still proud of the team, at a 6-4 record, very tough schedule. And hopefully we'll be able to pick it up. And hopefully we'll be able to have Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin in uniform sooner than later. Texans 16, Titans 13. Final. Bears improved to 7-3 with a 19-17 victory over the Vikings. You just never know, who's going to go from worst to first. And the Chicago Bears are doing pretty well here in 2025. Much better than expected by anyone's standards, even Bears fans. Packers 27, Giants 20 final. Steelers 34, Bengals 12. Jags blowing out the Chargers 35-6. That was a little shocking. Rams 21, Seahawks 19. Niners doubling up the Cardinals 41-22. Ravens beating the Browns 23-16. And then the Broncos with a last-second field goal by Lutz, winning against the Chiefs 22-19. Broncos final. Broncos improved to 9-2. Chiefs dropped to 5-5, the worst start that they've had in the first 10 games in the Patrick Mahomes era. And then obviously on Thursday night, we saw Drake May beat the Jets 27-14. And then tomorrow's matchup will be the Cowboys versus the Raiders. So we'll see how that all kind of plays out. So we'll be doing, obviously, the Lions-Eagles tonight. We got the Cowboys and the Raiders tomorrow. Then we'll do Blazers on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then I believe on Thursday, it's going to be the Texans and the Bills. So a little bit of NFL, a little bit of NBA. And we're getting closer and closer to Thanksgiving, which is great. My favorite holiday. You get the food, you get the friends, you get the family, and you get the football. But before we get into that, we got a really good one here. Philly is favored by 2.5 on the Vegas line. And let's see if the Lions can step up here big on the road. And as anyone knows, it's very difficult to win against Philadelphia, regardless if it's at home or on the road, but especially when you go to Philadelphia, one of the toughest places to win in all of sports. And out of all the teams in the NFC, I love watching my Buccaneers the most. But if I were to be able to pick, teams that I would like watching outside of the Bucs, these are the two at the top, Lions and the Eagles. These two teams are disciplined. Again, they have a lot of great skill position players, and can't wait to see these guys duke it out here this Sunday evening. Odin Sun with the $20 dono earlier on. I appreciate you. We're at $20.80 to go to hit that dono train. Jared Goff and the Goffense. Great stud running back in Jahmyr Gibbs, who's essentially the Bucky Irving for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And again, they also have another great one in David Montgomery, a nice 1-2 punch, the best 1-2 punch at running back in the league. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 64 receptions, 8 tutties. A guy has got hands like glue, great route runner, and he got a great smell for the end zone. And on the flip side, we got Jalen Hurts, one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the game. Saquon Barkley was the best running back in the league last year. This year, not having the same type of year. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor is the best running back this year. Let's see if Saquon can get going. And you got Devontae Smith at wide receiver. A.J. Brown, who's not really getting targeted or having a very impactful year, but we'll see if that changes down the stretch. And Dallas Goedert at tight end. And then for the one defensive player to really keep your eye on in the matchup for either team is this guy right here, the game wrecker for the Detroit Lions, Aiden Hutchinson. And Bates kicks off 65 yards, touchback to the 35. First down and 10 for Jalen Hurts. Sarah in the building. How are you? Is that through MLB.com? Five-year deal for Josh Naylor sounds amazing. I had 100% confidence that we were going to bring him back. It's just a matter of, how much, money and whatnot that we would have to give. So, Hassan broke it. Nice. Then it's legit. And first down and 10. Hurts passing complete to Devontae Smith. Robertson in coverage. And a pretty deep pass there on first down, going about 15, 20 yards towards the sideline. And that is incomplete. Hell yeah, I'm excited about that. Any other big news on the baseball side, Sarah, that you noticed besides that? That's the number one priority. Obviously, if we can get Polo back, at a reasonable price, that would be great, but it's not going to ruin us if we don't get him. We have plenty of young guys that could step up. But again, Polo was great towards the end of the year, and I would love to have him back. Hurts, and a little check down there. What happened to my hands? And Dallas Goedert with the drop. And a very unusual start here for the Eagles at home. Third down and 10 at the Philly 35. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Shotgun set. And Hurts, short left to A.J. Brown, a forgotten piece. Yasin with the tackle, 12-yard gain. And it's nice to be able to see A.J. Brown, be involved. At one point, he was a top 5, receiver in the league and, hasn't really been getting the looks. It's been kind of a weird offense. We know the Philadelphia Eagles are still a great team, but they're not as dominant, as they were on offense last year compared to this year. Last year, amazing. This year, A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley's numbers are quite a bit down, but that doesn't mean that they can't still end up getting to the NFC Championship game and representing the NFC in the Super Bowl again. But just something to keep an eye on to see if Saquon and A.J. Brown get going here on the back end of the season. And my best friend's a Bronco fan, Justin, so obviously this is kind of mind-blowing for him, but it shows you if you got a great defense, throw deep towards the sideline and caught. But that's going to be offensive holding after that beautiful catch by Saquon Barkley. That's going to be erased, and that's going to be on Lane Johnson. Bring it back, offensive holding, first down and 20 at the Philly 37. But you never know, how things are going to go from one year to the next. And, it shows you that even though Bo Nix at times, the offense can be a little slow and a little bit in mud, but when it matters the most, guys will step up like Troy Franklin did to make that big catch on third down. And again, you got a reliable quarterback, reliable defense, Nick Bonito and company. And again, not every team that's a top dog is going to be at the top forever. So first down and 20. And we got a 4-yard run by Tank Bigsby, the former Jag, off to that right side near the guard. Williams with the coverage. Second down and 15 at the Philly 42. Yeah, Tucker was a beast today, but, again, if you don't have, your top running back and your 2 top wide receivers, including another guy, 3 out of the top 4, no Jalen McMillan pretty much all year, haven't had Bucky since like week 3. And again, for me to be able to beat teams like the Lions and the Eagles and the Patriots and the Bills, I can't win unless I have all my great players available. And, we can hang around for a little bit. Baker was baking early, but the defense really hasn't been very good as of late. They've been giving up way too many rushing touchdowns and too many yards on the ground. And that's essentially why we've been dropping games to the Bills, the Pats. And we obviously know the Eagles and Lions, the teams playing today, are very good. Hard to beat those teams unless you have everyone healthy. And, even though we've dropped to 6-4, I probably have the 4 toughest losses out of any team in the NFL based on those teams. So, again, the schedule will get a little bit easier, coming up as we get a little bit further on, which is nice. We've had a very rough schedule as of late, and, the sooner that we can get Bucky and Chris Godwin back, the more competitive we can be going on a deep run. But, yeah, Tucker definitely looked nice, but we need a full complement of the roster, that's for sure. Hurts incomplete to A.J. Brown. Now we got third down and 15 on the Philly 42. Shotgun set on third down and 15. Hurts looking, got plenty of time back there. Decides to finally take off, but runs into a Detroit Lion and another. And then finally the play is blown dead. 1-yard run for after all of that. I don't know where Jalen thought he was going. And now it's fourth down and 14 at the Philly 43. Now, obviously we know certain guys like Caleb Ferguson and Garver are gone. Harry Ford can step up for Garver as backup catcher. But, getting Naylor was the absolute priority. And that's an awesome thing to be able to see. Not only just a short-term deal, I would have been happy for just a couple years. But to get him on 5 is amazing. You want to get him as long as you possibly can. Hell, we would love to have him until he's done playing baseball, as long as he's still productive. Eagles with the punt. And Khalif Raymond going backwards, and that's a loss of a yard. First down and 10 at the Detroit 14. And now we'll see what Jared Goff and the Goffense has in store here today. But again, out of all the teams in the NFL, if I was going to choose 2 teams to watch, other than the Buccaneers and the NFC, these definitely would be my 2. And it's kind of crazy they're going against each other. These are my 2 losses in the NFC, 2 in the AFC, Pats and Bills. And Again, I'm not used to, seeing my team play shitty defense. Normally that's the thing that helps us win. But, if your defense is not on point and, again, you got injured players, what can you do? You can only do as good as what you have available. But I do have the confidence, that we can end up making a run, and same thing is kind of going with the Oregon Ducks as well. More of the injuries are on the offensive side at wide receiver rather than defensively, where they're more clean and they're way more dominant than the Buccaneer defense this year. But I just want to be able to see both my teams healthy before the year is over to see how far they possibly could go in, the tournament. Obviously, when you're trying to, go for the trophy, the natty, and the college football playoff, and then obviously raising the Lombardi at the end is the goal if you're an NFL fan. Did they go over how much money it was, or just a 5-year deal? I imagine more details will emerge shortly. But we love that, baby. Great to see Josh Naylor, 5-year deal. And again, I think everyone was pretty confident that it was going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And that's awesome to see. You knew it was going to get done here shortly. So, and that's one thing that at least can make my weekend a little bit better, after dropping one. Just a 5-year deal for now. I imagine Hassan will probably release more information or another insider, unless the Mariners release that information if they get it first, and they decide to release it. But 5-year deal, I'm super excited, and I'm not even worried about the money. Again, whatever we need to pay Josh Naylor. And again, it wasn't, it's not often where you see a guy come in during free agency rocking, the merch of other teams that are in the city like he did, so you could definitely tell he loved Seattle. And very happy that he decided to be able to try to build something special in Seattle with us. And Jared Goff with the little play action fake, bootleg, Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best wide receivers in the game with the catch. And that is a nice 8-yard grab, 2nd down and 2 at the Detroit 22. Yeah, and you got to think he's one of the only guys that has been able to come into Seattle and bat over 300 out of all the rookies, out of all the free agents that we brought in. No one has really been able to, hit as well as him coming from another team. And again, when you can find someone that can bat 300, 350 in Seattle, which is the hardest ballpark to hit at, of course you need to sign that guy. Little check down to Jahmyr Gibbs. And looks like he gets that first down there off that 4-yard pass by Jared Goff and the Goff fence. First down and 10 at the Detroit 26. Move the Chinese. Yeah, I don't think it's even close, out of based on, even the small sample that we saw, offense, defense, stealing bags, great attitude, not a distraction, up in the air and intercepted by the Eagles. Oh my. And a big interception there. Jordan Davis got some pressure up front. Cooper DeJean doing Cooper DeJean things. And the Philadelphia Eagles are approaching a touchdown here shortly. Yeah, and I was going to say, out of anyone that we've gotten in, free agency or even at the deadline, definitely my number one. And I don't think we can, no one can really argue. I mean, there's other guys that we've had, but I don't think we've ever seen a player be as impactful on many, many fronts, like Josh Naylor. So super happy about that. And I imagine there'll be a few Josh Naylor jerseys that will be available. Since we know now he'll be on the team for 5 years, I imagine Naylor's jersey will be made, and there will be quite a few people that will buy one. First down and 10, 2-yard pass to A.J. Brown. Harper with the coverage in the tackle. 2nd down and 8 at the Detroit 9. Yeah, I mean, he's really serious compared to everyone else. Obviously a sneakerhead, has hundreds and hundreds of custom Jordan cleats. But anyone that's going to embrace the city and rock Kraken gear and other gear of other teams in Seattle, you already kind of knew it was a wrap at that point, because players aren't going to wear that type of stuff And it's not like the Kraken forced him to wear it, or any of the teams that he was repping that were in Seattle. He did it because he wanted to. And that's when you kind of know if someone's going to buy into a city, chances are they're sticking around, and he did. And off. And Saquon Barkley getting met by 3 Detroit Lions there. Run of none. No gain. Barnes with the coverage and the tackle. 3rd down and 8 at the Detroit 9. And if you're Detroit and Aiden Hutchinson, you're trying to hold them to a field goal here after that interception. Yeah, I mean, and again, we know Julio starts slow, but at some point he's got to start fast. And again, I wouldn't want any other center fielder in the game. I wouldn't want any other catcher in the game. And I wouldn't want any other first baseman in the game. So it's nice to be able to have those cornerstone pieces for the foreseeable future, for sure. And Hurts goes to A.J. Brown. I don't think I've seen Hurts go to A.J. Brown this often early in a game all year. And that is incomplete. Great coverage there by Rock Ya-Sin. And now it's going to be 4th down and 8 at the Detroit 9. And again, holding them to a field goal off the turnover is key for Detroit to be close and have a chance for this game. Yeah, Adrian Beltre had a great career. Nelson Cruz was definitely a fan favorite. I feel like Robinson Cano was the worst one out of those 3, overpaid and didn't really produce, But again, when you're playing around guys like Jeter and Jorge Posada, Bernie Williams, of course, you don't have the pressure to be the man. And then we brought him in to kind of be the man, and he just couldn't really handle it, that pressure, which didn't really surprise me. But I agree, out of a lot of those guys, Naylor is by far the best one, not even close. It's pretty much Naylor and everyone else below him. 3-0 Philly. And once Mariner fans, find out that Naylor did get signed, or where more information, I imagine we'll start having people come in, either here today or maybe tomorrow after they check social media and they start seeing more news. And obviously we'll, kind of go from, where we're feeling now and where we're going to be going forward. So, yeah, Wizard, again, what I think it's pretty much shown us, those are the type of games when you play against the Lions, the Eagles, the Patriots, and the Bills. We need Bucky, we need Evans, we need Godwin, but we need defense. And the things that really have cost us, games is our run defense is terrible. We're giving up way too many yards on the ground and obviously through the air. And again, great to see Tucker, with the trifecta in the tutties, but it doesn't really mean anything when your defense, just folds, easier than a lawn chair, more defensive possessions than not. Now, there are some possessions where we're flying around out there, and we know that Bulls likes to use the blitz, but, with the defense giving up so many yards, you got to be able to kind of scale it back at times. And I know he loves being so aggressive, but it only really works if you have the right personnel out there. And also, some timely, really bad penalties. Jacob Parrish, obviously ended up getting a pick, but, again, you have to be able to look at the discipline and just the lack of tackling, the lack of being out of position. And it hurts. But again, also, we've had a really tough schedule. Again, our 4 losses are to the fucking Lions, the Eagles, the Patriots, and the Bills, all potential playoff teams. So again, not really many teams are going to have losses like the Bucs. So again, we're still a good team. We just need to get healthy. And the sooner that we can get Bucky Irving back, the better we're going to be. We haven't had him since like week 3. So for us to be dropping a lot of these games lately is no surprise. But again, we need to be better on, offense, defense, and special teams. And we were hanging around, early on and even at halftime, but too much Josh Allen and, the rest is history. But hopefully we'll be able to pick it up and put it down and end up getting some victories moving forward. Dave in the building, what's good? Yeah, I mean, we're going to still win the NFC South. I mean, the Saints are terrible. The Falcons are terrible. Panthers are playing good ball. And even though they're close to us record-wise, again, big jump for them, but I don't know if any Panther fan really feels 100% confident that they're going to make a wild card this year. But it's cool to be able to see a team go from worst to potentially competing for first with the Buccaneers. But if the Panthers keep playing the way that they're playing, there's a chance that they could get to 10 wins, and they could potentially be in the running for a wild card. And if they end up not getting it this year, maybe next year, they're the team that gets in. And I'm really proud of their, production and their effort. And it's cool to be able to see bad teams finally get good, including the Chicago Bears as well. Being at the very dead, last in the position as little brother, and now kind of being big brother and looking down at everyone else. Pretty wild. We still got a few weeks to go, but still you got to acknowledge, the Panthers and the Bears doing much better than anyone anticipated after Gibbs loses a yard there, 2nd down and 11 at the Detroit 20. Jolly in the building. $10 holla. Stacks. Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Well, be blessed that you haven't had any major injuries like us just yet. Again, our team has been really beat up with injuries. And, again, if you don't have your starting running back and, 3 starting wide receivers, missing guys on the offensive line and the defense, kind of hard to win there. Flag on the play. Big sack lunch on Jared Goff. 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And now that's going to be 3rd down and 16. Holding is declined. And again, good to be able to see you guys. But again, you still guys have a long ways to go. You guys obviously have a good record this year and are taking advantage of the Saints and the Falcons being bootios. But again, I can see your excitement. But again, you still got a ways to go before you're on our level. But again, good for you guys to be able to get into 2nd place. And again, who knows? Maybe the Panthers will end up hitting the wild card in a year or 2. Keep on getting those dubs. And pass incomplete by Jared Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown, the intended receiver. 4th down and 16 at the Detroit 15. What do you want to be able to see, NC? You want some Bryce Young for a photo? And it's Orion. You got to spell my name right if you're going to put that in there, my guy. No, not Orien. There's no one on planet Earth named spelled that. You got to look at the constellation Orion Pictures. It's going to always be Orion. Come on, NC Dolly. And Lions with the punt. Let me get a Bryce Young loaded up here. Flag on the play. Offensive holding there, 10-yard penalty on Trotter. Offensive holding, 1st down and 10 at the Philadelphia 20 after we get back from the commercial break. And again, sometimes, people will give up on players and quarterbacks, sometimes a little prematurely. And, it's not like the Panthers had a bunch to work with. It's going to take time for them to be able to, climb the standings. But again, we've seen how bad the Saints are. They're tanking without saying they're tanking. The Falcons are terrible, even though people thought the Falcons were going to win the division this year. And I knew that wasn't going to happen. But again, nice to be able to see Carolina finally kind of getting out of the gutter and finally getting a little bit of recognition out there. Keep it going. I feel like the Panthers are kind of like the A's for us Mariner fans, where it's like they are a rival in the division, but you kind of root for them. It's like we never root for the Astros or the Rangers or the Angels, but again, it's like sometimes you'll have that one team, that that's gone through it. And even seeing things maybe like we did years ago, and to be able to see the rise, of a team that, pretty much, a lot of people were getting, sick of what they were seeing the last couple years, but Panther fans finally have something to get excited about. And congratulations, big victory for you guys. And also, not only that, beating the Falcons in OT, but improving to 6-5, which I don't think a lot of people thought that would be possible at this point. So congratulations with that. We're 6-4, you're 6-5, and I still think we're gonna win the division. But great to see you guys be competitive. 3-0 Eagles. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the Dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. And Saquon Barkley with a nice 14-yard run there. First down and 10 at the Philly 34. First down, Eagles. Move the chains. Yeah, I think maybe also too, Falcon fans and Saint fans usually like to talk more trash, and I think Panther fans and Buck fans, we just kind of let our play speak for itself, and we don't really need to be negative and talk shit, like if it comes to it, if someone is talking, we'll talk back, but we're not the instigator always talking shit and trying to bring people down. And I think that's a big reason why Panther fans, even though we're supposed to be rivals and then the Saints and Falcons hate each other, but I think it's like more of a mutual respect, for Panthers and Bucks, and we want each other to play well. And again, there's going to be some Buck fans that hate the Panthers and some Panther fans that hate the Bucks. I get it, but it feels like we're a little bit more civil than Saints fans and Falcon fans for the most part. That might have something to do with it. So, second down and 4, and a little run there by Saquon Barkley to that left side towards the guard. Lacey with the tackle. Third down and 1 at the Philly 43. Yeah, but again, it's hard for Baker to keep being in the MVP consideration, when you're losing games. And on top of that, you're going to Tez Johnson and, Sterling Shepard instead of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And Ibuka's been great, but again, it's like, we need that full complement of that team. We need Bucky, we need Mike, we need Godwin, we need the offensive line to be healthy. We need the secondary to be healthy with Jamel Dean. It's like, you can only do so much, until the injuries finally catch up to you when you're playing good teams. Like, would we still end up winning, against middle tier teams and bad teams? Of course, with what we have right now, but you're not going to be able to compete with the Lions, the Eagles, the Pats, and the Bills if you're not, close to 100% with your roster. So. And Eagles with the punt. Man with the punt. And Khalif Raymond there. And loss of 2. Great coverage there by the Eagle defense. Yeah, and I think, as, there's going to be obviously other people that are, going to be in the conversation, and that's fine, But again, there will be a point where, if Baker can actually have his weapons healthy, he'll be a top 5 MVP candidate again, down the road. And you never know. Between now and the end of the year, there could be some injuries and other things that are going on, but there's, quite a few quarterbacks that are going to be in that MVP conversation. And, again, it's never over until it's fully over, until you end up getting into the playoffs. So. All right, so we still have to wait for the physical to go through for Naylor. Four 17, 3 home runs in the American League Championship Series against the Blue Jays. Yeah. It's not really Baker's fault that we're losing games, though. To me, it's mostly the defense. Again, we do need to be a little bit more efficient, but Baker is doing as good of a job as he can with what he has to work with. But I feel like the defense and the lack of being able to stop the run, and the secondary not really doing a very good job either. It's like you can't be bad at both. And you just can't be trading touchdowns back and forth. Because for most of us that are Buck fans, we're used to great defense, and that's really the thing that leads the charge. And then if we end up having a good offense, great, but it's not something that we've always expected. It's always been kind of defense first, and to be able to see the defense not doing their job lately, it still feels like we're a playoff team and whatnot. But again, if we play defense like we have been playing lately, we're going to get bumped real quick, once we get to the playoffs. So hopefully we can, get healthy at the right time and get hot and, try to make a deep run. And Jameson Williams there with a 9-yard run, 2nd down and 1 at the Detroit 21. Second down and 1 at the Detroit 21. Hand off to David Montgomery there, 6-yard gain towards that right side. Vaughn and Blankenship with the coverage. First down, Lions, move the chains. Less than 5 minutes to go here in the first quarter. 3-0 Eagles. First down and 10. Goff. Short left to Montgomery. And a nice 10-yard gain there. First down, Lions. One pride I see you, Cooper DeJean with the coverage. First down and 10 at the Detroit 37. Nice job there by Jared Goff and the Goffense. First down and 10. Goff, short middle to Jameson Williams. Nice yak yards there. 19-yard gain. Jackson with the coverage. First down, Lions. Move the chains. Great pass there by Goff in that soft zone right there. Exposed the Philadelphia Eagles secondary. And now we got first down and 10 at the Philly 44. Zero Eagles here early on in the first quarter. About 3 minutes left here in the first quarter. And Detroit starting to march the football. Direct snap to David Montgomery. And good defense there. 2-yard gain. Second down and 8 at the Philly 42. No Laporta tonight will be a factor, but that will give more opportunities for Jameson Williams to make a big play. Second down and 8, man in motion. And pass incomplete to Brock Wright. And that's just into the turf there towards his feet. And now it's going to be third down and 8 at the Philly 42. And Montgomery with a 2-yard run there towards that right side, right to Jalen Carter. 4th down and 6 at the Philly 40-yard line. I got a Lion player down. Hopefully he's okay. Ratledge was injured during the play as we cue to a commercial break. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the Dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. All right, 4th down and 6. And we got to delay a game here on the Lions. That's going to push them back now to 4th down and 11 at the Philly 45. All right, Lions just about to punt. And Fox punts 30 yards. Fair caught there by Gibson. 1st down and 10 at the Philly 15. Both teams playing some pretty good defense here early on, but we would assume that offenses will start opening up, if not in the second quarter, definitely in the second half. All right, let's see what Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert got in store here in the last 119 in the first quarter. Hurts, hands off. Saquon with a little bit of a hezzy there. 5-yard gain by Saquon Barkley. Hutchinson and Branch with the tackles for the Detroit Lions. 2nd down and 5 at the Philadelphia 20. And a loss of 3 there by Saquon Barkley, going in the wrong direction. Great defense there by Campbell. And we know Jack Campbell from Iowa doing Iowa things. 3rd down and 8 after that 3-yard loss by Saquon at the Philly 17. And that's going to be the end of the first quarter. 3-0 Eagles. All right, Blazers up 70-61 over the Mavericks. That's good. All right, hold up. I got to flip that on. Walltown in the building. What's good? Your guess is as good as mine. We have to wait to see, once the year ends, how many other coaches end up getting fired and whatnot. Obviously for LSU to be competitive, you're going to need, to have someone, like a Saban kind of aura, to be able to get that team to where it was, even when you had Joe Burrow and, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, so again, we've seen how, the SEC was king for years and years and years, and now the Big Ten has kind of taken over that role and whatnot, but you're definitely going to be needing someone, top tier, unless you end up going for a middle tier coach and hoping for the best, but your guess is as good as mine at this point. All right, Blazers up by 9 against Cooper Flagg and the Mavs. Let's go, Blazers. Lane would be a good recruiter for you guys. He definitely would be able to recruit, but yeah, I don't know if he would leave Ole Miss since you guys are kind of rivals and whatnot. So, but money talks. It really depends on the buyout and, who's happy where and, if they feel like the LSU job is desirable at this point or not, so. And Hurts passing complete to Devontae Smith. 4th down and 8 at the Philly 17. Eagles are due to punt. Yeah, but getting someone that, obviously that can be a leader, be a recruiter, and obviously, if you're going to get someone that can call plays on offense or defense at a high level, but there are, over 100 Division I schools, so there's a lot of coaches that are out there, OCs and DCs looking for opportunities as well, but and that's a 44-yard punt there by Mann, and that goes out of bounds. First down and 10 at the Detroit 39. First down and 10, hand off to Jahmyr Gibbs. Nice 6-yard gain there. Blankenship with the tackle. Second down and 4 at the Detroit 45. If you're looking for like an SEC guy, I imagine there's probably coordinators, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, like on Georgia and other kind of elite teams that, that might, be an opportunity there, even though it might not be as big of a name, but if they're proven, like Dan Lanning was obviously as a defensive coordinator at Georgia before he got the Oregon job. And Jahmyr Gibbs dancing and getting blasted there with Bond and Ojomo. 3-yard gain by Jahmyr. Third down and 1 at the Detroit 48. And if you're the Lions, you cannot give up the run. You keep pounding the rock with Gibbs and Montgomery. They're the two best, tandem running backs on the same team. And again, at some point, those, openings for Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams will open up since Sam Laporta is out. And sounds like he'll be out for quite some time. And hand off to Jahmyr Gibbs. And no gain. And again, the offensive line getting dominated up front by that Philly D-line, and that's going to be the battle in the trenches. Whoever wins the O-line, D-line battle is going to win the game today. And again, right now, Philadelphia looking a little bit stronger on the O-line and the D-line than Detroit. And we know Detroit typically has a pretty good O-line and D-line. Penei Sewell is there on one side, Hutch on the other side, Aiden Hutchinson, but you need more than one dominant guy on each side of the line. And wow. And on 4th down and 1, he gets stuffed. And I don't think I've seen Jahmyr Gibbs get stuffed like that very often. Wow. Great defense there by the Philadelphia Eagles on back-to-back plays. And again, when you got someone that's like a Jahmyr Gibbs, type, like a Bucky Irving, very shifty and fast, they may not be as powerful, but normally they don't need to be. That's the David Montgomery job, to be kind of like the bigger, halfback / fullback, a guy that can run over you and, have good goal line looks. But for a guy like Gibbs, from the 20 to the 20, he gives you speed. He gives you, great creativity and space. But when you're going to be running up the middle with a smaller back, you also run the risk. If you run into a wall, you're going down. Montgomery might be able to bounce off, but Gibbs, not so much, not against this Eagle D-line. And Ojomo again with a big tackle. And again, you're not going to see Jahmyr Gibbs not gain any yards like that often. But again, when you are dealing with the Philadelphia Eagles, it does happen quite often for them. 3-0 Philadelphia. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the Dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. And again, when we watch Jahmyr Gibbs, we're expecting him just to go crazy. But again, defense wins games, defense wins championships. And again, if you got a good D-line, that definitely will stop a lot of those elite backs, especially if you're going to run right, through them, if you're going to be running, right off the guard in the tackles, running halfback dives and counters, you better make sure you got a good offensive line to be able to push. Otherwise, you're going to go backwards. And we'll see if they can get a touchdown here on this next drive. Saquon Barkley, DeVonta Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, and they got themselves a pretty damn good offensive line as well. A little bit lower scoring affair, early on, but again, I would assume that we will be getting a few touchdowns before this game is over, but we might have to wait, to the second half. We might be able to get one or two before halftime, but you would assume we're going to get at least one team in the 20s, hopefully mid 20s, and hopefully the other is, pretty damn close to that as well. But Eagles are only going to need a couple first downs for a field goal and then a few more to hit the end zone. Play action fake. Hurts says, I'm going for the tutty on the first play. 1-on-2, and overthrows his intended target, DeVonta Smith, the gunner, and that is incomplete. Second down and 10 at the Detroit 48. But these are type of plays that Jalen has connected on with DeVonta Smith, where you're trying to take advantage immediately and throw that strike. And again, they may not be, assuming that you're going to go deep on the first play, but if you can catch a secondary napping and you can go up 10-0, you're not looking back at that point. Second down and 10, Hurts pass incomplete. Deep left to Dallas Goedert. So he's definitely spreading the footballs around. You're going with A.J. Brown heavy in the first quarter. Now you're seeing, Goedert and obviously DeVonta Smith get some opportunities, but who's going to actually come down with the catches? And again, you are going to have to see Jalen Hurts run an RPO and, use his legs, especially if some of these throws are not going to be connecting. And if the defense is going to be, kind of in that blanketed coverage, at some point you may have to take off and run. And, you should be able to see Jalen run for 30 to 50 yards before this one is over for a couple first downs, and that could end up being the difference. Third down and 10. And Hurts, another throwing attempt towards the sideline, incomplete. And that is to DeVonta Smith, fourth down and 10. Terrible possession for the Philadelphia Eagles, especially after their defense was so good, stopping them on fourth down. You got Saquon Barkley, and I get it. He's not the best running back in the league in 2025 like he was last year. But when you get a guy as good as Saquon Barkley, why aren't you using him? And that's another reason, why Philly's offense has kind of stalled this year compared to last year. Saquon opened it up for everyone else, but now they're not really giving Saquon the ball. And when they are, he's not as explosive as he was last year based on the reps that he's getting in 2025 compared to 2024. You need to be able to defeat your bell cow like the Colts do with Jonathan Taylor, who is the best running back in the league this year. And a diving catch there by Khalif Raymond, almost fumbled it. And now we got a flag on the play. We got a face mask. And we got 12:38 left here in the second quarter. 3-0 Eagles. Personal foul, face mask on the kicking team. And that'll be on Trotter Jr.? Jeremiah Trotter Jr. with the penalty. 15 yards, that'll be added on. So now it'll be first down and 10 at the Detroit 35. Missed opportunity for the Eagles, especially having the ball. You know what I mean? It doesn't really make any sense. You get the ball on a big stop, on third and fourth down by your D-line, and you have Saquon Barkley, and instead you throw 3 times in a row. I don't know. Again, we know that these two teams are very evenly matched, but sometimes, when you're trying to play chess and everyone else is playing checkers, you got to make sure that you evaluate what you're doing. And sometimes you're getting a little too cute out there. Interception, punt on the first 3 possessions for the Lions, not so ideal. And a handoff there to David Montgomery. And the way that you attack Philly is going to be completely different than any other team in the NFL. Their D-line is one of their big strong suits. So you got to be fast, quick passes to the outside and not necessarily running right up the gut. When you got players, that are going to push you backwards, whether it's Jordan Davis or Jalen Carter, you have to understand the strengths and weaknesses that Philly has. And obviously we know they have a pretty good linebacking core and secondary as well, but that's where you can take advantage of this team. Pass to the outside, and not having Sam Laporta hurts pretty bad as well. And Brock Wright filling in for Sam Laporta there with a 4-yard catch. 3rd down and manageable, 3rd down and 2 at the Detroit 43. And now on 3rd down and 2, pass incomplete to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Run the football. Now 4th down and 2 at the Detroit 43. That's what that Philly D-line does, makes you question your running backs, even though you got the 2 best tandem running backs, in the league with Montgomery and Gibbs. And then you're not even going to them because that Philly D-line has intimidated you in the first half. And now the Lions will have to punt again. And obviously you don't usually see the Lions punting as often as this. They usually are, a gambler and, they're going to go for it on 4th down. But when you play Philly, it's a little bit different, And we do get a fake and they don't get it. See, why are you running a fake right there? Stupid. I mean, again, you can gamble, when you're playing like the Miami Dolphins, when you're playing like the Saints, and you're playing teams like the Cardinals. You can't be doing that, here against Philadelphia. And it's not even like you're at home, you're on the road, Philly is too disciplined for things like that. Risk takers. Megan in the building. How are you? Tough one today for the Seahawks and the Bucks. Tried to play the best that we could, and it just kind of came down to, just the 4th quarter not being able to get enough done. And, obviously we still feel like the Bucks and the Seahawks are still really, really good teams, but tough when you end up having a rivalry matchup, especially for you guys. But, there always will be an opportunity to, see what can happen later on in the season. 3-0 Philly with 11:16 left here in the 2nd quarter. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, I was looking at, the stats of the defense, and Rams and Seahawks defense are so good this year. If you look at the lot of the statistical categories, they're in the top 5 in a lot of them, Rams and Seahawks. So again, Darnold just didn't have a good day. Rams defense, very, very good at home. Now, if the game was in Seattle, do you flip-flop the score? Probably. Obviously it's a little bit harder to win on the road. And again, usually you don't see Darnold make that many mistakes, but you also have to give credit to the Ram defense. They knew exactly, what Darnold was going to do before he even knew what he was going to do. So, and every once in a while that happens. You're going to have a really good quarterback in Sam Darnold just have a bad game, and still a very good team. Close game, could have went either way. And again, if that field goal was maybe 5 yards closer, maybe we're talking about a Seahawk victory. But again, there'll still be plenty of time, for a chance at payback. And it definitely feels like the Rams and Hawks are both going to be in the playoffs. So who knows? You might end up matching up with them, in the playoffs as well. But competitive game, and I assume, obviously if it's in Seattle, it's a little bit of a different story. Yeah. But again, some games he's going to be great. Some games he's going to be bad. I mean, no one's going to be perfect. We're human, But that's why it's good to be able to get some of the losses during the regular season to kind of see, how you match up. And, I have to go against the Rams next. And again, like, the schedule is just insane. It's like one tough game after another tough game after another tough game. And, the Buccaneers are a good team, but we have a lot of injuries. And our 4 losses are to these 2 teams that are playing, the Lions and the Eagles, and the Patriots, who are really good this year. And then we lost to Josh Allen and the Bills today. And now we got the Rams. It's like the Buccaneers probably have the toughest 4 or 5 game stretch out of any team in the NFL. But, once we hopefully get past that stretch, we'll be able to get our guys healthy and ready to go. But, we definitely know who the, cream of the crop is in the NFC, with the Eagles, the Buccaneers, obviously Green Bay Packers, the Bears are, playing some good football, Hawks and the Rams, so it definitely will be up for grabs, for the NFC for sure. Even though it feels like Philly will probably have one of those spots, who's going to be the other team that will play them? We'll find out. 3-yard run by Saquon Barkley. First down and 10 at the Detroit 32. Move the chains. Yeah, it's when you play like 4 or 5 playoff teams in a row, you can't expect to win, every game. But then obviously after having a tough game, obviously the Titans is going to be like a trap game for you guys, but definitely a game that's winnable as long as you just play good, consistent football and Darnold doesn't have the turnovers, you win. So, and that'll get the confidence back. And, again, you're not going to win every single game. And they've won quite a few already up to this point, probably more than most Hawk fans were anticipating. So, sometimes your team will show up. Other times, you just have to look to the drawing board and move forward. And passing complete there to A.J. Brown. Second down and 10 at the Detroit 32. .9:54 left here in the second quarter. Hurts, short right to A.J. Brown, and A.J. is getting a lot of looks in this game. And obviously hasn't really been a very productive player in 2025, neither has Saquon. But with that being said, the defense has been fantastic, and they're 7-2. Especially when you saw how great the Eagle offense was last year compared to what you're seeing this year. It's almost a night and day difference. Like, you still have the same players, except you're not getting the same results. And obviously, depending on who you play, schedule-wise, maybe a little bit easier of a schedule for Philly last year compared to this year. And Hurts with the keeper. There we go, using his legs. Wow, nice spin move to get those extra yards. 17-yard run, Rock Ya-Sin with the coverage. First down, Eagles. I saw that. Rest in peace. Yeah, that came up on the timeline for me as well. Rest in peace. And knee is down for Jalen Hurts there. But at least on the bright side, even though we both lost today with the Bucs and the Seahawks, we're going to be in the playoffs. So we just got to be able to, try to put some of these losses behind us and then look forward and just try to put our head down and get better week in and week out, I mean, basically, a majority of the teams that are sitting at the top were kind of expected. Eagles at the top, Rams at the top, Bucs at the top. And that there were going to be teams that were going to challenge like Seattle. Biggest surprise in the NFC is the Bears with Caleb Williams. And obviously you're seeing, the Detroit Lions and their offensive coordinator becoming a head coach and them believing in him finally. And even though it was a little tough in the first month, they definitely are starting to get a little bit of rhythm with that team. And again, you never know, from one year to the next, who will go from worst to first. And you definitely have a logjam in the NFC North with the Packers, Lions, and the Bears now. And, obviously now Minnesota is starting to look like little brother, like the old Chicago Bears. And more than likely, they're going to finish in last place in the North, Minnesota. But we'll see how long Chicago can keep their hot streak going. But if you have the right quarterback and the right coach, it does make a difference. And a nice tackle there by the Lions. Anzalone, loss of 8 there. 3rd down and 15 at the Detroit 26. And again, you can be really good one year, like the Washington Commanders with, Dan Quinn and, Jaden Daniels, overachieving and making it to the NFC Championship game and losing, to the Eagles, but beating the Lions in the playoffs. We didn't see that coming, but then this year the Commanders are terrible. But Jaden Daniels has been hurt a majority of the year, and the team hasn't really recovered from a lot of those injuries. So, you can be great one year and then you can be terrible the next, and it's all about trying to be consistent year in and year out. And Hurts, short left there to A.J. Brown, 10-yard gain. And now we got 4th down and 5 at the Detroit 16. Let's see if Philly decides to go for another field goal here. All right, they're going to potentially keep the offense out here. I mean, they really don't have anything to lose. I mean, they're up 3-0. They can't run the ball. The Detroit Lions on the Eagle D-line. So, again, they've been going heavy to A.J. Brown, and obviously he has been in the media, kind of talking about how, he's not really getting the opportunities and he's not really playing well this year, but obviously they're making an effort to try to get him in the end zone and give him more opportunities so he doesn't get discouraged. And now we have timeout, Philadelphia. No tush pushes yet, which is really weird, right? Normally we've already seen like 4 or 5, in a first half and whatnot. So I believe we have not seen one just yet, but we will before the game is over. Field goal is up and good. 6-0 Philly. And that's the right choice. You're going against a very good football team in the Detroit Lions. There's no point in getting cute and trying to go for it. And then all of a sudden Detroit gets some lucky touchdown, off the next possession. Sometimes you just got to take what the defense gives you. And obviously field goals are not sexy, compared to getting touchdowns, but they help you win games. And, you don't want to leave any points on the board, especially when it ends up being a close game like this is here. 6-0 Eagles with that Jake Elliott 34-yard field goal is good. Blazers 91, Mavericks 85. Let's go, Blazers. Yeah, well, again, he went 4 for 5, and then the only field goal that he missed was the field goal at the very end of the game, which was very long. So anything that you get 58 and higher, it's really tough to make those 58, 59, 60 and beyond. So, if anything, it did keep them in the game, with all the turnovers with Darnold and whatnot. So Yeah, and then again, if that last field goal would have went in, they win. So, some games you're going to have more touchdowns than field goals, but, it's not like Myers went 0 for 5 today, and then they ended up losing by 2. So, got to know your stats. 6-0 Eagles. And honestly, considering the game was 21-19, Darnold had no touchdown passes and 4 picks. Normally, when you end up having no touchdown passes and 4 picks, you lose by 20 or more. You don't lose by 2. So, you got to take that in consideration too. Not every game is going to be like that. That's probably going to be the worst game that he plays all year, and, he'll be better next week. I mean, obviously that's every quarterback's nightmare to not, throw a touchdown pass and have that many turnovers. But again, defenses for Seattle and the Rams this year are very, very good. But it definitely shows you how improved Seattle and Los Angeles' defense have been. Like I said, I was looking through all their stats and analytics, and there are top 5 in many, many categories for both of the defenses, on a number of categories, how many yards given up per game, run yards given up, and just overall, defensive stats. And again, nice to be able to see both of those teams improve dramatically on that side of the ball. And Goff incomplete to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jordan Davis there with the coverage. 2nd down and 10 at the Detroit 26. And plus, going into the year, we already anticipated, certain teams to be at the top. The Rams winning the West, the Bucks winning the South, the Eagles winning the East, and then kind of a toss-up between, we thought maybe, Green Bay Packers or the Lions winning the North. So, and then obviously now the Bears are the surprise team this year. Goff with the little floater, wide open. There we go. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 1st down. Lions. One pride, move the chains. Beautiful. Jared Goff and the Goffense. Beautiful play there to Amon-Ra St. Brown. 1st down and 10 after that 34-yard pass, bringing that electricity for the Detroit fan base. 1st down, one pride. Move the chains. 1st down and 10 at the Philly 40. They can come up with a couple more big plays. They'll be able to get into the end zone. And they can't abandon the run. You got to keep running with Gibbs and Montgomery. Play action fake. Goff. There we go. There it is. Touchdown. Jameson Williams. And they have one thing that the Eagles did not anticipate. Speed, speed, speed. Touchdown. Lions. That was pretty. On stride. Jared Goff to Jameson Williams. Wow. Nice job there by Jared Goff. And again, you can kind of tell, when they have a big play, they're going to do another one, sooner than later. And again, unsportsmanlike conduct. But again, Jameson Williams is getting these opportunities because Sam Laporta is out, and he's making the most of every single snap and every single catch. And again, you couldn't have asked for a better throw in stride. And then Jameson Williams did the rest with his legs. And, a very pretty touchdown there by Detroit, and we have a 6-6 tie. Beautiful. And now we got Bates trying to tie this game up, even though there's a little bit of wind out there in Philly. Kick is up, and wide right, and he missed it after the unsportsmanlike conduct, which turned an extra point into a field goal range type of kick. And again, you have to be able to be very smart on every single play that, you make against a rival like that. And now we have a 6-6 tie. Nice job by Jared Goff. Great job by Jameson Williams. And again, he was going to be the guy that was going to take advantage of Sam Laporta being injured. Amon-Ra is going to be doing Amon-Ra things, right? So he'll be able to get his looks. But again, Jameson Williams was one of those guys that normally would only get, a couple looks in the first half and a couple in the second half, and they were going for like that big touchdown, that big 50-yard bomb, and then sometimes he would cash in, right? But now with Laporta being out, this opens up where not only are you going to get your regular reps, now you're getting Laporta's reps. Yeah, Brock Wright might get a few looks here and there, but who's going to come up with the big touchdowns? More than likely, Jameson Williams. So again, it's nice to be able to have someone electric like that, since Gibbs and Montgomery have been, pretty quiet up to this point, because you have to give credit to that Eagle D-line. But again, one spot that you can match up one-on-one and beat them is with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. So as long as the offensive line gives Goff enough time, that might not be the only touchdown pass that we see today from Jared Goff and the Goffense. Beautiful drive, Goff to Jameson Williams. Beautiful. 6-6 tie. Self-inflicted wound with that unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which moved that football back. And now we have a kickoff by Bates, 52 yards, 23-yard return by Xavier Gibson. And now we got first down and 10 at the Philly 36. And we'll get more scoring in the second half. These are just two juggernaut heavyweights in the NFC battling it out. So Jalen Hurts, short right to A.J. Brown. 9-yard gain, Robertson with the coverage. Second down and 1 at the Philly 45. All right, no worries. And even though this Eagle offense is nowhere near as good and fluid as last year, they can still beat you. They can still beat anybody in the league. They could end up winning, another Super Bowl or getting to a Super Bowl. But again, there are, quite a few teams in the AFC, that are going to give them a threat if we end up getting the Eagles representing the NFC, if that happens. Again, the way that Denver's playing, the way the Patriots and the Colts are playing, obviously we know the Ravens and the Bills and the Chiefs are nowhere near as good as they were last year. And again, this might be the first year where we see a Patrick Mahomes-led team not make the playoffs. There's a very high probability that might legitimately happen. So, and we'll see if the Ravens can, climb the standings and, catch up to the Steelers. And obviously Buffalo, even though they have defensive issues, they're probably the best out of those three teams at the moment, between the Ravens, Chiefs, and the Bills. So, but still, the Bills know that they have quite a few holes on that defensive side of the ball. Handoff up the middle to Saquon Barkley with a little bit of a spin move there. 5-yard gain. Jack Campbell from Iowa with the tackle. Second down and 5 at the Detroit 46. Hurts on second down and 5 towards the sideline there. And Jahan Dotson there, the former Commander, with the catch. First down, Eagles. First down and 10 at the Detroit 37. It's like the only time that you can still be like entertained in a low scoring game when both offenses are amazing and both defenses are pretty amazing as well. Fumble! Oh, and Saquon jumps on it. Like I said, if we're, watching a game like tomorrow when we got the Raiders and the Cowboys, if it's 6-6, it might be a different story, but again, hopefully Dak and Geno will play well tomorrow, and the defenses, we know aren't the greatest, and we know Max Crosby, can do his thing. And Dallas will have a few guys that will be able to make some plays here and there, but, it should be probably a higher scoring affair tomorrow. And hopefully it ends up being an entertaining matchup. But we got that for Monday night. Blazers on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday will be Texans and Bills. That should be exciting. And Tank Bigsby with a big run there. First down, Eagles. That's a good pickup for Philadelphia. For a guy that was RB2, there in Jacksonville. someone to be able to give Saquon a breather and give you a little bit different type of style of runner. You can never have enough running backs in that running back room. All right, we got the 2-minute warning. I know it's a little low scoring here. 2 field goals by Philly and a touchdown and a missed extra point by Detroit. But we will be able to get at least one of these teams into the 20s and the other maybe just under 20. But hopefully it ends up being, somewhere in that 24-20 range, or at least 2017 range, something of that nature, before this one is all over. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the Dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. 33 subs to go to 23,300. Let's get it, baby. Blazers 104, Dallas 100. Come on, Blazers. $104.98. Come on, Rip City. Sharp with 26, Denny Advia with 22, and Grant with 18. I love it. Cooper Flag with 14 points for the Mavs. And we haven't really seen Hutch make a big impact yet, but we still have a second half to go, as well as 2 minutes before halftime. And on 1st down and 10, Tank Bigsby runs to that right side for 7 yards. Brian Branch with the tackle. 2nd down and 3 at the Detroit 16. And now the Philadelphia Eagles are threatening with a touchdown here in the last 2 minutes before halftime. Second down and 3. Hurts, short right to A.J. Brown, and they're definitely making a effort, to get A.J. involved early and often. Nice 11-yard pass there to A.J. Brown. Rock Ya-Sin with the tackle. 1st and goal at the Detroit 5, and it feels like they're just moments away from getting into the end zone. And again, anyone that had A.J. Brown in fantasy, it has been a terrible year. Statistically for him, a career low yards per average, normally around that 80 to 90 range. This year, around 50 to 55 per game. But definitely getting a good combo with Hurts and A.J. obviously here today. First and goal at the Detroit 5. Shotgun set. Hand off to Saquon. Dives into the end zone. Touchdown, Saquon Barkley. And again, if they would have labeled him down at the 6-inch yard line, that's when we probably would have got the tush push, or they would have went to Saquon again. But nice job there by Saquon Barkley on the second effort. And now it's 12-6 Philly. But again, you still have a little bit of time, not very much. Half a minute. So I'm not really sure. mean, if they're going to label him down, you can go right back to Saquon and, get a half-back dive and he'll score, or they'll just do a tush push. And obviously if they, take this Saquon touchdown away, Saquon fantasy owners know that more than likely Jalen will end up getting the touchdown here on the next play. But they're going to review this, and we'll find out here after the commercial break if they're going to let that stand or if they're going to do the tush push and Jalen, gets in, or, if they decide to hand it off to Saquon again. But either way, they're going to be getting in. They got 35 seconds left. It's either they're going to call it a touchdown or we'll go one more play and then they'll punch it in. So. 108, 106 Mavericks. Come on, Blazers. All right, second and goal at the Detroit 1. The play was reversed. So now the tush push more than likely will be incoming here. So again, unless they decide to give it back to Saquon one more time, which would obviously be great for Saquon Barkley fantasy fans, but realistically, this will be Jalen Hurts, tush push, touchdown, and then they'll get to, that 12-6 lead. Extra point obviously will more than likely be good, being that close. And then you'll have less than 30 seconds for Jared Goff and the Goffense if they're able to punch it in on the first play. Touchdown was overturned by the booth review. And we'll find a tush push here momentarily, I would assume. Yeah, tush push incoming. 22 seconds left. The Lions aren't going to have enough time to score. And clock is running. And tush push, touchdown. Jalen Hurts. And obviously that's great if you have Jalen in fantasy. Not so great if you have Saquon. Touchdown gets reversed. Now if you have Jalen, you're feeling great. And now it's 12-6 Philadelphia with only a few seconds left. And now we're just waiting on the extra point to come through by Jake Elliott to make it 13-6. But the Lions are still in this. Obviously it's been kind of a battle, for just getting yards, let alone first downs and touchdowns. And we'll see what, coaches make the right, correct adjustments, and we'll go from there. Plus, when you got Goddard and Saquon pushing you, in the back, and the legs, and you're already strong yourself and Jalen Hurts, you're getting in more times than not. Extra point is up by Jake Elliott, and it is good. 13-6 Philly. Fly, Eagles, fly. And now we got 16 seconds left to see if Jared Goff can come up with a miracle. Now, obviously, if you can go deep, to Jameson Williams, he might be the guy that could get you a last-second touchdown, or a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown. But again, we saw Amon-Ra with a big, 34, 35-yard catch, and then a big, 30-plus, yard gain there by Jameson Williams. And now if you can do something like that, where you can get 35, 40 yards out of Amon-Ra, 35, 40 yards, out of Jameson Williams, we could potentially have a 13-13 tie. But realistically, the Eagle defense will probably sag back and won't allow that big play to happen. Or they'll end up bringing an all-out blitz, and Goff won't have enough time to go through his progressions. always a good time watching these two teams battle it out. And I think that a lot of us thought that these would be the two teams that would be playing each other in the NFC Championship game last year, not the Commanders and the Eagles, who upset the Lions, even though Detroit was a better team, overall last year. But the Commanders got hot at the right time, and Jayden Daniels did Jayden Daniel things, as a rookie. Yeah, he still has to pass the physical and whatnot, but again, pretty sweet, to be able to, again, and it wouldn't really matter the amount, no Mariner fan is going to be mad, regardless if it's, 10, 50, people thought, oh, 10 million, you kind of felt that it would be closer to 15 to 20 million per year. I mean, he definitely is deserving of that. So, and now we're at halftime with the kneel down, 13-6 Philly. But I miss baseball. It's like I love the NFL and I love college football, and I can enjoy the Blazers and the Kraken, and I enjoy NASCAR Cup Series, even though that just ended. But March can't come soon enough. I can't wait, but also I'm a little concerned on how they're going to present the Mariner games and how much is it going to cost? Are we going to have to pay $10 a month to watch the Mariners and whatnot? And, obviously getting it for free through the cable through Root Sports was nice, but realistically, it sounds like you're going to have to probably pay a monthly fee to watch them. And, hopefully it ends up not being too expensive. Hopefully like $10 a month, because if it ends up being like 20, that's, I'm still going to have to pay it because I'm obviously doing this, full time, but hopefully it's closer to 10. All right. We got 11 minutes before we get back from halftime and we get to look at some highlights, some that are going to be pure joy, and other highlights will be a little bit of pain for some of us that lost today, like Buck fans and Seahawk fans. We can relate. Cardinals is on there, $20 a month through MLB.com. And then they have last time I heard there was 5 to 10 teams that were on MLB.com. And then you just had to click on the team link and then it would, give the details. But not every, some teams have deals that are private, like the Mariners were with Root Sports. And then others, have, went to this MLB app type of scenario and whatnot. But hopefully the broadcast in the pre-show and the post-show is good, and again, hopefully the announcers and everything that they have will be relatively the same. And again, if there's going to be a big shakeup on, the announcers and the format and everything else, hopefully it's, better than what we got out of Root Sports, not worse. And, I'm definitely looking forward to the season. But, with WWE getting greedy, with their $30 a month with their Disney Plus Hulu thing, I'm probably going to try to do every game next year. I mean, again, I tried to shoot for 155 out of 162 games, just missing one a month for WWE pay-per-views or PLEs. But if we're not going to be doing WWE, then, I'm going to try to do every game. And that's a lot, 162 plus playoffs if we get there. And, it was definitely a long grind, but, it definitely was well worth it. And, based on how the Mariners did, again, that was a big jumping point, here on the channel. And every year the Mariners, win the AL West or make the playoffs and go on a run, that'll give us, more opportunities here on the channel rather than any other team that I cover. So, even more than the Ducks winning the Natty or Blazers or Kraken. So, and I, wish all those teams that I root for to have success, but obviously if the Mariners, end up winning it, that'll be the biggest needle mover on this channel than anything else. $13-6, Eagles lead at halftime. And we got about 8 minutes left, and they're going to go through some of the highlight package games from obviously earlier today. And then we got the Raiders and Cowboys tomorrow. And then I'll be doing Blazers on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we'll be doing the Texans and the Bills on Thursday night. And I don't know if CJ Stroud will be available, but it should still be pretty good. Mavericks up 112 to 110. Come on, Blazers. but I don't think I've ever been, wanting baseball to return, faster than, this year, especially on how the season ended for Seattle. But, great news today. Josh Naylor agreeing to a 5-year deal to come back to the Mariners. So, again, that is amazing news. Not really surprising, and again, hopefully we can get Polo, back as well. And if we end up getting any other people in free agency, hopefully it ends up being a bullpen only, because we have plenty of other positions in the farm and on the roster already that are good enough. Broncos 9-2. Well, you got the best defense in the league, and you got Bo Nix, who is definitely underrated. And again, just imagine once the Broncos actually have a good defense or a good offense, like their defense. At that point, they'll be the most dominant team, or one of the most dominant teams when that happens. And, they still might end up making the AFC Championship game or Super Bowl, even with the offense at times being a little sluggish. But again, defense wins games, defense wins championships, and Denver's defense, even with no Surtain, is still the real deal. Nick Bonito is amazing, and again, it's kind of cool to be able to see teams that normally, were either good or kind of under the radar take a big leap. And obviously, we've seen the Colts and the Patriots take a big leap this year, which was not expected. And same thing with the Chicago Bears in the NFC. But again, we will see how long, this will last, for some of these teams, and if they'll be able to keep that momentum strong as we get into December and January. Chiefs off to a worst 10-game start since 2015, 5-5. But again, you're not going to be kings forever. And again, we've seen the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs be great for years and years and years. And it was just a matter of time before other teams started to catch up. And apparently that year is 2025. All right, we got 5 minutes to go roughly here before halftime is up, and the Lions are going to receive the second half kickoff. So that'll be a good opportunity, right out of the gates for Goff, maybe to go deep to Jameson Williams again and to see, if they can end up tying up this game. Broncos, Patriots, Colts at the top. And then you got Steelers, Bills, Chargers, Jaguars, and then the Texans and Chiefs on the outside looking in. But, can the Jags or the Chargers beat anybody in the playoffs, or the Steelers? Probably not, So obviously the teams at the top, look pretty good. But those other teams that might make the playoffs, and we would assume that the Ravens will end up leapfrogging the Steelers. But I don't think anyone really has confidence. If you're a Steeler fan, if you're a Charger fan or a Jag fan, you're not winning against the Colts, the Pats, or the Broncos. So. And then obviously the NFC is a little bit more competitive. Eagles, right? Buccaneers, Lions, Packers, Bears, Seahawks, Rams. So there's a few more teams, a little bit more well-rounded, offense, defense, special teams. And I feel like in the NFC, anybody could beat anybody. On the AFC side, the top dogs are the top dogs, and you just wouldn't assume that they're going to lose to the kind of the bottom feeders that are still going to be in the playoffs. If the Chargers or the Jags or the Steelers make it, they're not beating anybody. But I mean, if you get the Seahawks, the Rams, the Packers might be maybe the weakest team out of the good teams, and we'll have to see if the Bears can keep it going. But if you're a Hawk fan, a Ram fan, a Lion fan, an Eagle fan or a Buck fan, you feel pretty good about your chances of making, the NFC Championship game. And obviously the Bucks are, probably, on that lower end, with the Packers, not because we're just not consistent. It's just injuries, but I do feel once we get healthy, we'll be able to separate ourselves away from Green Bay and closer to Philadelphia, Detroit, the Rams, and the Hawks. All right, Blazers up by 2 with 1:17 to go. Can't win a game if Josh Allen's, throwing for 3 and running for 3. Not ideal. Got to be better, Buccaneers. All right, I got the Blazer vision on here. Blazers up 117 to 115 over the Mavs, and Cooper Flagg got a win. And we'll be doing Blazers on Tuesday night and on Wednesday night. It's a must-win game. Come on, Rip City. Can't lose to the Mavs. Cooper Flagg at the top of the key. Wow, beautiful floater is good. 117 tied up. Blazers and Mavs. Cooper Flagg, 16 points. 6 rebounds and 2 blocks. Sharp at the top of the key. And rejected by Cooper Flagg. But they're going to call a foul. I'm not sure if that's on Flagg or on one of the other defenders with the body. Oh, that's a foul. Not on Flagg, though, on Klay Thompson. And normally, when a lot of the Blazers attack the paint, we don't get calls. You know, especially with Klingon and Sharp and a few others, so. All right, we got about 1:30 left before halftime is up. They're going to do a referee review here. Free throw by Sharp is good. Come on, Blazers, up by 1. And the Lions are going to receive the second half kickoff here momentarily. 31 points tonight for Sharp. And second free throw, in and out, no good. Come on, Blazers. Cooper Flagg at the top of the key. And draws the foul on the Blazers on Toumani Camara. Oh, come on now. I can't have too many of my teams lose in one day. Gotta have the Blazer win after the Buck loss today. Seven for 12, 119 yards for Jared Goff. 9 for 18, 63 yards for Jalen Hurts. And 6 receptions on 8 targets. That's the most in his first half in his career. Tied, obviously, after not getting the ball pretty much all year. And Elliott kicks off 65 yards, touchback into the end zone. And Hutchinson needs to be more of a factor with only 1 pressure if the Lions are going to come back and win this. All right, game is tied at 118, Blazers and Mavs with 40 seconds left. And we're just about ready to get started here in the second half here between the Lions and the Eagles. And then after this last 25, 30 seconds is done, then I'll have my full attention here against the Lions and Eagles. Cooper Flagg Backing down Shaden Sharp. Nice jumper. Front rim, in and out, no good. Here we go. Last 10 seconds. Let's go, Blazers. Denny Advi at the top of the key. 3, 2, 1. 3-point shot, airballed. Come on, Denny. Overtime. All right. Now I got to keep that on the side. And here we go. Overtime for the Blazers and Mavs. Come on, Blazers. First down and 10 for Jared Goff. Screen pass to Jahmyr Gibbs with blockers in front. Go, baby. Nice speed there by Jahmyr Gibbs. And that's how you have to use Gibbs. You have to be able to use him in space. So that way that speed can actually be used as a weapon, not just running him up the middle. If you're going to run up the middle, you can use David Montgomery. If you're going to use Gibbs, make sure you're giving him some screen passes to be able to get some good yak yards just like that. Great job by Jared Goff making those adjustments. And again, when you don't have Ben Johnson anymore, obviously the offense doesn't really look the same as it did last year because now Ben is coaching up Caleb Williams and the rival Bears. Little Sam Laporta, obviously being out is not ideal as well. And then Jahmyr Gibbs with another screen pass. And back-to-back first downs there for the Lions. Move the chains. There we go. Offense already looking better for the Lions in those first two plays to Jahmyr Gibbs. And a handoff to Gibbs. Jordan Davis is there meeting him. Second down and 9 at the Philly 36 after that 1-yard run. (13-6) Eagles up on the Lions here early in the third quarter. And again, whoever makes the better adjustments, after halftime, and again, whoever wins the line of scrimmage battle, the war up front, that's going to be the team that ends up getting the job done. And we got Jared Goff with a pass there to Brock Wright, filling in for Sam Laporta. 4-yard gain, Cooper DeJean with the tackle. Third down and 5 at the Philly 32. And Goff deep left to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Nakobe Dean in coverage, incomplete. Fourth down and 5 at the Philly 32. And finally, the drive starts to stall. Will they go for it now on fourth down and 5 at the Philly 32? Obviously, if they kick a field goal, it's a pretty deep one. Let's see what they decide to do here. I mean, it's going to be close to 50-yard field goal if they go for it. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. And Jared Goff here on fourth down and 5. They go for it. Pass incomplete to Jameson Williams. And that will be a turnover on downs. And again, why are they making it so difficult? It's like, why not just run a very easy, crossing route or slant, like right in front of the quarterback's eyes instead of having him to really work for, a tough passing lane for a first down. There's a lot more easier plays that you can run. And that was just not a good pass by Jared Goff. Too low on that trajectory there to Jameson Williams. Turnover on downs. Let's see if Philly can capitalize. 13-6 lead with 12:15 left in the third quarter. $122-120. Mavs up on the Blazers with 4:13 left here in overtime. Come on, Blazers. Blazers getting sloppy. Shotgun set here for Jalen Hurts on 1st down and 10. Handoff to Saquon Barkley. Going to that left side towards the guard. 4-yard gain. Williams with the coverage and tackle for the Lions. 2nd down and 6 at the Philly 36. 123, Mavs and Blazers tied up with 3 minutes to go in OT. Let's go. Shotgun set. Hurts, hands off to Saquon. And a good 5-yard run there by Saquon Barkley. Campbell and Williams with the coverage and tackle. 3rd down and 1 at the Philly 41. 13-6. Eagles with 11:43 and counting here in the third. And we got a 5-yard penalty for a false start there on Tyler Steen, guard on the Eagles, number 56. Wow, that's crazy. He ends up getting the false start when he was just trying to tap the hand of the other player to get out of the way. Well, that's wild. I don't think I've seen that before. That's wild, man. Should have been a neutral zone infraction there. Shotgun set on 3rd down and 5. And Hurts, incomplete. And Granson was the intended receiver there. And that's 4th down and 5 at the Philly 37. And the Lions are pumped after that big stop. And let's see if they can tie this game up. Anzalone. And we got a 5-yard penalty on a delay of game. Get a little bit more room for the Eagles with this punt. 125, Blazers and Mavs. Come on, Rip City, got to win. Fourth down and 10 at the Philly 32. Eagles up by 7. But Detroit might be able to push the football, you would assume, at some point here in the third quarter. And Braden Mann, 40-yard punt, fair caught by Khalif Raymond. 1st down and 10 at the Detroit 28. All right, Blazers up by 1 with 2:30 to go. Come on, Rip City. Okay, we got a commercial break. 13-6 Eagles, 10:30 left in the third quarter. Blazers up 126 to 125. And free throw is good. Game knotted up 126 to 126, 8 points apiece in OT. And then obviously once this last 2 minutes is over, then I can have my full focus and attention with the Eagles and the Lions here. Stay on him, Denny. Cooper Flagg and Denny going at each other. Floater is good. Great bucket there by the rookie, Cooper Flagg from Duke. 128, 126. Mavs. Sharp kicks it out. Big three by Jeremy Grant. Are you kidding me? Let's go. 129, 128, 24 points for Jeremy Grant. Let's go. We're still waiting for the Lions to get back from commercial break here. First down and 10, hand off to David Montgomery, 6-yard gain to that left side. Ojomo with a big tackle again. Second down and 4 at the Detroit 34. And again, as long as the Lions don't abandon the run, they're going to have a great chance to come back and win this game or at least make it competitive late. Got to keep going to Montgomery and Gibbs. You do not want to fade those players because if you're going to put it in Goff's hands, he hasn't really been on target. A few plays to Amon-Ra, obviously a couple to Jamison Williams, but again, not enough, by just Jared Goff's arm alone to win this game. You're going to have to get some, runs on the ground and also giving Gibbs some touches so that way he can get you some yak yards. And screen pass to Gibbs on the opposite side. Go, baby, go. Wow, great comeback. And another cutback. Go, go, go. First down, Lions. Move the chains. 42-yard pass. Wow. And again, that's how you end up getting Gibbs in space. They didn't do it in the first half. They made the adjustment in the second half. Running him up the gut is not the ideal solution against their strong suit with that D-line with Carter, up front. And again, when you got guys up front that can, make it difficult on your running backs, you want to make sure you're giving a guy that has the speed and the agility to run in space. Just like Bucky Irving, you can run him up the middle when you're going against a shitty run defensive team, but when you're going against an elite run defensive team like Philly, you got to be able to open it up a little bit and giving him the ball in space. Gibbs runs off the left tackle, 2-yard gain, second down and 8 at the Philly 22. $134, $131. Come on, Blazers, down by 3. And again, you just have to know your personnel, like what is the strong suit for your personnel. Montgomery can be the bruiser up the middle. There's no point of running Gibbs up the middle against that elite D line, unless you want him to fumble or get hurt. And every once in a while you can still, run him up the gut on a halfback dive or a counter, but you don't want to do it the whole game. At some point, you want to give those looks to Montgomery and then let Gibbs get you the, yards outside. 5-yard run there by Gibbs up the middle. 3rd down and 3, 3rd down and 4 at the Philly 18. Missed free throw by the Blazers. We might be screwed now. 134-131, down by 3 with 47 seconds left. We needed that free throw, damn it. And here we go. Jahmyr Gibbs to that right side, 10 yards, Blankenship, and they don't have an answer right now for Jahmyr Gibbs. He is amazing. 1st down and goal at the Philly 8. And again, normally this would be time where Sam Laporta's name would be called. Obviously a matchup that you could have with the tight end against a linebacker, but Laporta is hurt. So now where do you go with the football? Do you go continue with Gibbs and maybe give it to Montgomery, or do you give an opportunity for Jamison Williams or Amon-Ra St. Brown to win one-on-one against a DB? Blazers down by 3 with 47 seconds to go in OT. Goff, good pass. And Jamison Williams flipped over and out of bounds. Jackson with the tackle. 2-yard pass. 2nd and goal at the Philly 6. Running like a jet sweep, or something of that nature. Reverse, with a guy like a Jamison Williams can work. But again, when you're so close to the goal line and, everyone's so close to each other, you might not have enough room to be able to hit that sideline. Trips left. 2nd and goal, handoff by Gibbs. And again, why aren't they going to Montgomery? And Gibbs gets knocked backwards. And now it's 3rd and goal. They're almost acting like Montgomery doesn't exist, which is weird to me. In short yardage, Gibbs obviously isn't going to be as good as Montgomery, at least not last year. But Toby in the building, what's good? 3rd and goal. And they decide to go to Gibbs again. See, the play calling is not good. If you had Ben Johnson, there's no way that he's going to continue to run with Gibbs. Like, there's more people on the team than just Gibbs. I get it. Laporta is out, and you're not going to go to Brock Wright, but Amon-Ra, and Jamison Williams are very capable, as well as David Montgomery. Like, the Lions are acting like they only have Gibbs, and that's it. And again, why are you running into the heart of the defense? You got to be better. If Ben Johnson was still the OC of the Lions, they would have already scored already. Well, when Josh Allen scores 3 touchdowns in the air and 3 on the ground, again, we could have been a little bit more competitive if the defense was better. But again, no Bucky Irving, no Evans, no Godwin, pass incomplete in the back of the end zone on 4th and goal. But again, we saw, the Bills get punked last week, and then they obviously made up for it this week. So just unfortunate that I had to be the team that played them after the Dolphins beat the brakes off of them. Terrible play calling there by the Lions. And again, it shows you when you don't have Ben Johnson, calling plays, these are the garbage plays that you're coming up with. And now the Blazers are down by 5 with 16 seconds left. Looks like they lost that as well. Man, I hate when I have multiple teams that I root for lose in the same day. But again, no Bucky, no Mike Evans, no Godwin, no Jamel Dean. Obviously, the defense can't stop the run. They're not very good with defense on the pass as well. And, our 4 losses this year are to actually good teams, right? The Eagles, the Lions, the Patriots, and the Bills. We probably have the best record against, especially with what we have, at this point. There's not very many teams that have 4 losses like that. Again, and I still think that we're going to win the NFC South, but, again, we definitely have a very difficult schedule, and that was a very tough stretch, and it's not going to get any easier. We got the fucking Rams next. At some point, this tough schedule needs to end, but, we just have to try to stay afloat until we get Bucky Irving and Godwin back, and we haven't had Jalen McMillan all year, and offensive line beat up, defense beat up. We just got to be able to pray that we get healthy at the right time. Yeah, well, that's defense. it doesn't exist for the Buccaneers. So, especially on the ground, and then on top of that, if you're going to let the passes go through on top of that, then you're not going to win. Again, they desperately need, Ben Johnson back. And again, if Ben Johnson can get the Bears to fucking 6-3, obviously it shows you, with Caleb and what they have to work with, that's a pretty big feat, but again, there's a difference between, really good coaches and really good coordinators, and then others that are trying to figure it out. Yeah. But also, too, people would say that about your guys' team, too. If the Steelers or the Chargers or the Jags made the playoffs, could they beat, the Broncos or the Colts or the Pats? And the answer is no. Again, and again, if you played the Bills, could you guys beat them? Probably not. So again, the Chargers are missing Slater and Alt, but again, you also have to worry about your own team, too. It's one thing to be able to get to the playoffs, but also, are you going to get bounced in the first game, or can you actually go on a deep run? So there is quite a bit of a difference between the top teams in the AFC and then the other teams that get into the playoffs that potentially are frauds or, pretenders, not contenders. And that's not being a hater. That's just being real, and obviously the NFC's got better teams: Eagles, Lions, Packers, Bears, Seahawks, Rams. I mean, it's a little bit different on the NFC side. And Blazers are about to drop a game. Another loss for Rip City. That's tough. Jalen Hurts passing complete to A.J. Brown. 2nd down and 10 at the Philly 4. It's one thing if you have the personnel to win games, but you also have to call the right plays to be able to use your personnel. And obviously right now, the weakest thing on Detroit's offense, besides not having Sam Laporta, is the play calling on offense. And Hurts scrambling out of the end zone, floater, and caught. Boo, big hit. And he hangs on to the football. The Lion player ends up getting injured. 1st down, Eagles. Wow. And Branch, who ended up giving a big smack on that hit. Wow. 34-yard gain. Are they going to try to do targeting or what? Ooh, got him right in the chin as well. Branch ends up targeting and getting him in the chin, and he's the one that ends up taking the damage. That's targeting. Insult to injury. You're the one that ends up doing the targeting, and you get hurt. Unnecessary roughness on Branch. And when you're the one putting on the hit on the chin, you would assume that the Eagle player would be the one that would be injured, but not so fast. Jahan Dotson says, not today. 1st down and 10 on the Detroit 47. And again, Detroit's not going to be able to win this game unless the play calling gets better. And again, they may need a pick six or a fumble or a punch out, late in the 3rd or 4th quarter. But again, Philadelphia is a very tough team to beat, at home or on the road, but especially in Philadelphia. And even though the Eagles offense hasn't been as crisp as it was last year, they still look a little bit better, than the once in a while splash play that Detroit is giving you here tonight. First down and 10, 6-yard run there by Saquon Barkley to that right side. 6-yard gain. Harper with the tackle. 2nd down and 4 at the Detroit 41. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. There's always going to be a difference between teams that are injured and teams that, just don't play well. They have all their talent, but they just have either a bad offensive coordinator, bad defensive coordinator, or just someone that doesn't know what they're doing. And a big sack lunch. That's what we were waiting for. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Roy Lopez, I see you. And Hutch getting in on that as well. 3rd down and 15 at the Philly 48. Way to bring the electricity for the Lion defense. I wish I could play shitty teams like you. Cardinals and Titans, Jesus Christ. I'm out here fucking playing the Lions and the Eagles and the fucking Patriots and the Bills, and I got the fucking Rams, and you're fucking playing the Cardinals and the Titans. We are not the same. 3rd down and 15, pass incomplete to A.J. Brown, and now it seems like they're kind of going to A.J. a little bit too much, where you should be going to Goddard and Smith while you're just trying to make your receiver happy. That's one thing, but you got to make sure that you're giving him a chance to actually catch the football, not just throwing in his direction. And that's going to be an Eagle punt. A lot of inaccurate deep throws by Jalen. I mean, again, you can always do some short and intermediate routes and, rely on your yak yards out of Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. But stop fucking going to A.J. Brown. Start going to Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. They'll fucking catch the ball and they'll give you yak yards instead of just going on these deep, like, Hail Marys to A.J. Brown, thinking that he's the A.J. Brown from the Titans like fucking years ago. And man punts 42 yards. Khalif Raymond, 5-yard return. 1st down and 10 at the Detroit 15. That's the, obviously we know that the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Bills are nowhere near where they were in years past. The Bills are probably still the best out of those 3. Ravens will eventually take over Pittsburgh, you would assume, as long as Lamar doesn't get hurt again. But it's pretty top heavy in the AFC. And then, again, after the first couple teams at the top, the AFC is kind of weak, compared to the NFC, where you got 7-8 teams that, that are all pretty similar to each other and pretty competitive. I mean, you got Broncos, you got Patriots, you got Colts. Bills defense doesn't really exist, but as long as you have Josh Allen, you always have a chance. But those might be your 4 strongest teams in the AFC. So. Yeah, that's what happens in betting sometimes, That's why I never bet. I'll give out advice and help people win money and whatnot, but there is still time for Devontae Smith to get in the end zone. You got to think, if there is someone that is going to go for, a 20-yard plus bomb, 20 to 50 yards, it'll be Devontae Smith, not necessarily A.J. Brown. And then if there's an intermediate touchdown, it would probably end up being Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert. So, even though they're going to A.J. Brown left and right, I still think if you're going to get a passing touchdown, it probably is a good chance that Smith would be the first, and then Goddard would be the second option, and then A.J. third. So there still is enough time, for him to hit pay dirt. So, yeah, that's the reason why they're giving him the ball, because he's been pretty much crying all year. He was going from 80 to 90 yards a game to like 54. So it's just like his career low. And, in the media, they're trying to make him happy. And, they're 7-2. They don't want to have any distractions. Saquon's not having a great year. You don't hear him bitching, But again, just because you were great last year doesn't mean you're going to be great this year, and things change. And also it depends on the teams that you play from one year to the next. You switch divisions every year on who you play. So, depending on if you finish in first or second or third and fourth, that's going to relay into the next year's schedule. So obviously it's a little bit tougher this year, opponent wise. 1st down and 10, little play action fake, Goff. And pass incomplete. Amon-Ra St. Brown, they need to get him the ball as well. I think Amon-Ra and Devontae Smith are kind of in the same category. They both can score touchdowns, but you got to give them, good opportunities on good play calls. Second down and 10. Goff, incomplete, short middle. And Goff is just not accurate, you know. And again, it's like you're able to run screen passes to Jahmyr Gibbs, and that's about it, you know. And again, you got to be able to make it easier, you know, on Jared Goff, you know, running crossing routes and slants right in front of him to like Amon-Ra. That's how you get him the ball, you know, instead of running these like really deep routes and really good coverage. You know, it's just going to be like Jalen Hurts going deep to A.J. Brown. Nothing's going to come out of that. And again, the Eagles got a great defense, right? You know, at times, you know, the Lions can play some great defense, kind of in spurts, but the Eagles have player for player a better D. It's not just the guys up front. You know, it's the linebacking core with Vaughn as well as the secondary with Cooper DeJean. And here we go, Jahmyr Gibbs in space, and that's how you end up. Wow. Nice spin move. First down, Lions. I mean, that might be the only thing that they can do is just go with screen passes or in space throws to Gibbs and just have him run away from the defense. 33-yard pass, 37. Ooh, baby, I like that. At the Detroit 48, first down and 10. Campbell with the tackle. Big splash plays from Jahmyr Gibbs, but can they get in the end zone? And David Montgomery finally getting the ball. 7-yard run. Second down and 3 at the Philly 45. Yeah, but you also have to understand, you know, look at the teams that we're playing this year on the schedule. Most people that, you know, would be playing the teams that are on our schedule would be much worse than what we are. You know, they would be 4-6 or even worse than that. You know, so again, it's like, you know, we're not playing bad football necessarily all the time. The injuries are a big factor, but then also lately, you know, the run defense and the pass defense have let us down, which is something that we're not really used to. But again, when you play against the big boys like the Lions and the Eagles and the Pats and the Bills, you need Bucky Irving. You need Chris Godwin. You need Mike Evans. You need Jalen McMillan, you know, and when you don't have those guys, you're, you know, especially with the offensive line injuries and the secondary injuries on top of that. We need another pass rusher. Levante's not getting any younger, you know, need a new linebacking core as well. Secondary obviously has a lot of names, you know, but they don't always play as consistent as we would like, you know, even though we like a lot of the players that are playing back there. And obviously Jamel Dean getting hurt again, not ideal. Third down and 3, incomplete pass there from Goff to Williams. And Jared Goff looks like he can only throw to Gibbs, and that is it, as that is batted down by Jalen Carter. Fourth down and 3 at the Philly 45. And Goff, incomplete short right to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, I don't know what's worse right now, play calling wise, Philly or Detroit. But the decision making in this game, it's like we know both of these teams are playoff teams and they both could end up being in the NFC Championship game. But golly, when these really good teams play each other, it's like they almost forgot how to call plays correctly. You know, it's like, you know, and I get it. Your play calling is going to be different based on who you play every week. I get that, you know, but you haven't really seen very good play calling from either team here tonight. Turnover on downs. Philadelphia now with the football. Shotgun set, hand off to Saquon Barkley. Nowhere to go. Trying to dance and romance, but nothing is there. No game. Second down and 10 at the Philly 45. And stop doing these dumbass throws to A.J. Brown to make him happy. Go to Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith And again, you can always use Saquon similar to Jahmyr Gibbs, even though Gibbs is faster. Saquon in space obviously could help Philadelphia move the chains as well. Yeah. Well, not only that, they're only down by 7. So, he feels that, it hasn't burned him to the point where the team lost at this point yet, but field position definitely does matter. And, it's one thing if Goff is hot to keep going for it, but when he's been off, and then you just continue to let him go for it on 4th down, what's the point? He hasn't proven that he can really move the chains consistently. You think just all of a sudden magically he's going to go 10 for 10 and then you're going to score 14 points back to back immediately? It's just not going to happen. Not against Philly's D on the road. And we got a flag on the play here. Low block. And that might be the thing that holds, Dan back, from actually making a Super Bowl or even making the NFC Championship game. If you play like that, you're going to get beat, by a team like the Commanders this year, whether that ends up being the Seahawks or the Rams or the Buccaneers or even a surprise Bears or Packer team. You never know. 15-yard penalty on the low block there. A.J. Brown, what are you doing? And that's going to be the end of the 3rd quarter, 13-6 Philly up on Detroit. And again, I think that we expected a little bit more, offensively and defensively from both of these teams. But one thing that has definitely showcased itself here today, play calling has been fucking terrible for both teams. We know both teams are elite, in the NFC and in the NFL. But again, the play calling for the offensive coordinators for both have been absolutely disgusting, terrible. I mean, besides the Jahmyr Gibbs calls, in the second half, but it's you got David Montgomery, you should be running up the middle with him and then Gibbs in space. But instead, they're not really giving Montgomery any chances. And then they're just running Gibbs like he's as big as Montgomery. And then they figured out a couple screen passes with blockers downfield. He can get some, big chunk plays. But again, what about Jameson Williams? But what about Amon-Ra St. Brown? You need to get those guys more reps. And again, it's not like you have to totally abandon the run, but at some point you need to get, your other weapons involved. And again, not ideal at this point. But with all that being said, with the play calling being shitty for both at this point, the Lions are still, quote unquote, in it, only down by 7 in the 4th quarter. Reflect in the building. What's good? Naylor re-signs with the Mariners, but he has to pass the physical 5 years. So that's fun, right? Obviously the Bucks lost today. Obviously tough one. Blazers lost today. I need at least a win on some level, and at least Naylor, if he passes the physical, will be good to go, which is not surprising for any Mariner fan that has watched, Josh Naylor and how he's responded, with obviously Seattle and wanting to be here. So, yeah, play calling has been really bad here today. I don't think I've seen Philly or Detroit be this terrible with the play calling. And obviously, they're trying to play chess while the other plays checkers. They're trying to get too cute, out there, and they're trying to, okay, you're going to do this, but I'm going to do this before you do this. But the thing is you guys have the personnel to normally make these plays against shitty teams, but when you're going against each other, you're not going to be able to go for it on 4th down and get the execution like when you're going against the fucking Titans, or some shit team. It's not like you're going against the Dolphins or the Titans right now. It's you got two powerhouses going at each other, but a little disappointed in the play calling. A.J. Brown cries, so they go to him a billion times this game for pretty much nothing. Devontae Smith and Goddard have to suffer. Saquon isn't as good as he was last year, and it shows. And then obviously with the Lions, you don't have Sam Laporta, right? So that hurts. Brock Wright can get a couple catches here and there, but Jahmyr Gibbs, you're running him up the middle against that tough, stingy Lion D-line, or Eagle D-line, excuse me. You should be running David Montgomery instead, as the bigger back. And then we've seen Gibbs get loose, on some screen passes for some splash plays, and Jameson Williams with a big play early in the first half. But, Amon-Ra St. Brown not getting the ball, Devontae Smith not getting the ball, Goddard not getting the ball. Goff looking terrible out there. Hurts looking terrible. 11 for 23 from Hurts, 13 for 26 for Goff. But again, it's when it's not working, you got to make changes, and they're just continuing to do the same shit over and over again. And Hurts scrambles, and that's something that he should have already done in the first half. Hurts is a little gimpy there on the sideline. 7-yard run for Jalen Hurts. Campbell with the tackle. Dank, I watched it. Yeah, Naylor's back if he passes the physical, and again, normally when you go 0 touchdowns and 4 picks, usually you lose by 20. You lost by 2, and you had a chance with the field goal at the end, but again, anytime you have a field goal that's 58 or more, it sometimes will be a miss, and he went 4 for 5. So again, the Rams are the real deal. The Rams have a great team, and Seattle's a really good team as well. They have improved on defense in many categories. Top 5 in many categories for both teams, Seahawks and Rams. But again, you can't go for 0 touchdowns and 4 picks and think that you're going to win. And a big catch there, A.J. Brown. Got a flag on the play. Defensive holding there on the Lions. Now we hopefully can get Polo done. Yeah, it happened just recently. If you go on to your news, on X, go to MLB.com or Jeff Passan. And obviously, the Mariners will post it once he passes the physical, I assume, to make sure that everything is, up to standard and whatnot. But I don't think we're going to have any issues with him passing the physical. It'll be good to go. So, yeah, because I think he's willing to take less money because he wants to play in Seattle. Obviously Boras could be a negotiator or whoever you have as an agent, but at the bottom line, is it about money, or is it about being somewhere where you feel needed and wanted? And you'll take a little bit less money. Why take 10 more million and play on the fucking Marlins, where no one wants to go, or you take a little bit less and you go to play with Seattle with Julio and Cal? It just makes sense, right? Do you want to become a little bit more richer on a shit team and be miserable and have more money, or do you want to take a little bit less money and play on a better team and actually have a chance to win a World Series? I think it depends on the point of where you are in your career. Are you at the end of your career and you need a payday for your family, or are you still in your prime where you can take a little bit less and try to win a championship? And I think that's where Naylor is at. Mailata there with the penalty. Yeah, and again, if you look at the categories on defense for the Seahawks and the Rams, a lot of those categories are top 5. And again, we've seen that the O-line is improved, from last year with Seattle, and the defense is improved. But the Rams, again, they're on another level, and again, the Rams are arguably, the top dog with the Philadelphia Eagles. And obviously we know that it's a 3-team race with the Bears, Lions, and Packers. Who's going to finish at top in that division? No one knows. We'll wait and see. And obviously the Buccaneers are going to win the NFC South, but we keep playing these tough opponents, and we're not really playing very good defense right now. And the injuries to Bucky Irving, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans are drastically hurting our chances of being like, an elite contender. Like, can we make the playoffs? Yeah. But if we keep playing the way that we are against these good teams, we're going to be one and done. And I don't want us to be one and done. I want us to be able to at least, try to make the NFC Championship game. But that'll never happen unless we get our guys healthy. 2nd down and 14. 8-yard pass there to Devontae Smith. There he is. 3rd down and 6 at the Detroit 47. Yeah, plus you already could tell that he was going to come back to Seattle because he's rocking, Kraken jerseys and rocking Seattle Supersonics jerseys. Like, you don't rock jerseys of other teams in the city unless you love it there. This period. No one is going to force you to wear a Kraken jersey just because you got one custom gifted by the Kraken with your name on it. You're going to rock it because you want to rock it, and that's what Naylor, it makes him very special. He's a serious guy, sneakerhead, but very passionate about the things that he likes, and perfect fit for Seattle. 3rd down and 6. Hurts decides to take off, and like I said, he needs to run for 30 to 50 yards for them to be able to more than likely win this game, even though they're up by 7. And now you're starting to see him run a little bit more, and he doesn't have to run a lot, just for a few first downs here and there to kind of keep Detroit's defense on their toes. Nice 11-yard rush there by Jalen Hurts. 1st down, Eagles. Seahawks are going to make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. You'll make it, but again, you just may not win the division. It feels like the Bucks, the Eagles, the Rams, those are the teams that are probably going to win the division. The NFC North is the question mark. Who's going to win between the Lions, the Packers, and the Bears? And the Bears is the big surprise in the NFC this year. Shotgun set. And Hurts going deep. And Saquon, the intended running back, out of range, incomplete. I think so too. The Packers are probably the worst good team. Out of all like the good teams in the NFC, they're the most like untrustworthy out of all the good teams. If any team was a pretender, it probably is them. And obviously the way that the Bears have been playing lately, maybe the Bears are even better than the Packers. But again, we have to kind of wait and see how the season unfolds. Because again, Jordan Love and the Packers could, get hot at the right time and beat someone. It's very possible. But, I would say that they definitely feel like the pretender out of all the good teams in the NFC. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's okay to have doubts, but I like to be able to look at the other factors other than just the agent, like how he interacts with the fans and the other teammates and the managers and the personnel, and sometimes it's not just about money, and again, Seattle's building something special, and obviously Naylor, appreciated his time. And again, we can't let someone that actually can hit 300 and 350 in Seattle go. We've never had a player like that. And again, we got to make sure that we keep him in Seattle, and that'll rub off on the other players, 6-yard pass there from Hurts to A.J. Brown. Rock Ya-Sin in great coverage there again. 4th down and 4 at the Detroit 30. Let's be honest. Naylor is a perfect fit anywhere, but especially Seattle based on what we saw, obviously, this year. Field goal is up and good by Jake Elliott. 49-yarder. 16-6 Philadelphia. But again, we can let Garver go. We can let Geno go. Try to bring Polo back. You got Harry Ford to fill in for, Garv, and let's try to get some bullpen pitchers. We got plenty of infielders and outfielders to work with. Try to get Polo back, sign some bullpen guys in the offseason, promote within. Let's see what Colt Emerson, Cole Young, and Ben Williamson can do, and the evolution of Cade Anderson and Durangelo and Lazaro Montez and a few of the others in the farm. But as long as we're spending money, in the offseason on, the bullpen, we'll be fine. Besides Naylor and hopefully Polo. Bullpen the rest of the way, and if we do that, instead of just trying to sign some random guy, that might be competing with another guy for a spot, that'll be wasted money. We have plenty of guys that could fill in, that are waiting, like Ben Williamson, Cole Young, and Colt Emerson specifically. So, and then we got to trade Luis Castillo away so that way Cade Anderson can be the new Brian Wu when he first came up in the 5, spot. Then we can put Cade there, and we need a lefty in the starting lineup desperately, and hopefully Cade will be like Yesavage, and we can end up relying on someone like that. But hopefully we can bring up Cade sooner than what Yesavage was brought up. But Yesavage went from single A all the way to the World Series, and hopefully we'll be able to have Cade do the same. (16-6) Philadelphia. And again, the biggest thing with Detroit, that I've noticed, from last year to this year and the previous years, Ben Johnson, the OC, he really put those pieces together to maximize, every player, every yard, every touchdown. And now he's the coach of the Bears and got Caleb Williams at 6-3. And we know Caleb isn't really that great, so it shows you if you have a really good head coach or a really good play caller, it really will make a big difference. And what Chicago gained, Detroit lost. And it definitely shows, and obviously I don't think we anticipated the Bears being this good in year 1 with Ben Johnson. But, again, if you're elite at what you do and then the team believes in you and your mission and your belief, again, sometimes you're a year early or 2 years early, which, the Bears are showing that they're right there with the Packers and Lions. And who's to say, that the Bears, won't have a chance to win the division if they keep going like this. So. I mean, obviously the best guy, at the deadline and the best, free agent signing maybe ever for the Mariners and Josh Naylor. First game with 5 failures on 4th down since 2022, but you have to realize who you're fucking playing. You're not playing the Miami Dolphins. You're playing the Eagles on the road, and you don't have Ben Johnson calling the correct play to the correct player. And that's why you're 0 for 5 on 4th down. You're not as, competitive and dominant on 4th down like you were with Ben Johnson. I wish the Lions would understand that. I mean, they should have beat the Commanders last year and fought, for the Super Bowl against the Eagles. But again, sometimes if you get hot at the right time and healthy, Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels were great last year, but look this year, they're terrible. And of course, Jaden Daniels has been hurt, so that's a big reason why, not just because he's played like shit in a sophomore slump, but, you can be good one year, but it doesn't mean you're going to be good next year. Yeah, it's a number of things. It's Penix, it's the O-line, it's the defense, it's the coaching, and the Falcons should not be as bad as they are. 5-6 losses in a row. It's like they're getting into the fucking Saints territory now where the Falcons won't even get second place. Like, more than likely, it's going to be the Panthers who ended up winning again, and they're right there at 6-5 with the Buccaneers, being injured, but we're still more than likely going to win the division. But the Panthers are playing better ball than the Saints and the Falcons combined, which is wild because they used to be little brother like the Bears sitting at the bottom. So it shows you, you can go from worst to first or third to first or third to second, if you got the right pieces in play. And, unfortunately, Bryce Young is, starting to come in, to his own. And unfortunately, the Falcons are going backwards, which a lot of people thought the Falcons were going to win the division this year. Not so much this year. And Jared Goff incomplete. Brock Wright, the intended tight end, 2nd down and 10 at the Detroit 39. No, Panthers are in second place. Saints are last. Falcons are third. Panthers are right there with the Buccaneers at the top. And Rico Dowdle, former Cowboy, has actually been rushing some pretty good yardage game in and game out when he's healthy. Amon-Ra there in motion. And pass incomplete to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Goff's throws have definitely been off target. Too high or too low. And just not in a good rhythm with his players. Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Right? And then obviously Ben Johnson's been able to take advantage of that with Caleb. That's why you got to keep up with the entire league, not just, one team. You got to keep up with everyone that's in the division and everyone in the entire NFL. Goff towards the sideline, almost intercepted. Adoree Jackson was there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the intended target. But again, I don't think I've ever seen an offense look so dominant from one year to so shitty the next. And again, the Lions are 6-3. But again, can we really trust, anybody in the North? Packers, Lions, Bears? I don't think so. I have more trust in the Rams and the Eagles right now. Those are the most trustworthy teams in the NFC. And then you got Seattle and Tampa, who normally are going to be competitive more times than not. But again, we've had more injuries than Seattle, but, we've had a pretty fucking tough schedule on top of that as well. And it doesn't get any easier. We got to play the fucking Rams next. It's like, Jesus Christ, can we stop playing so many fucking playoff teams? The Bucks' 4 losses this year are to the Eagles, the Lions, the Patriots, and the Bills. All playoff teams. And then we play the Rams. That could be another loss. I'm sick and tired of with this tough-ass schedule with our injured, beat-up roster. But, after the Rams, it'll start getting a little bit easier. But, we definitely have had one of the more tougher schedules based off playoff teams in 2025. So. But again, if we had Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, Bucky Irvin healthy, as well as Jamel Dean and a few of the offensive linemen, I don't think that we would be 6-4. I think that we would have split between the Eagles and the Lions, and we would have split between the Patriots and the Bills. We would have probably 2 losses right now, not 4. But, injuries happen. It's a part of the game. It's like you just don't expect a good chunk of your elite players to be injured at the same time. So, Yeah, I don't know, man. The way that the Rams are playing, and again, our defense right now is not good. We can't stop the run. We can't stop the pass, and it's like you got Tucker and Rachaad White, but it's not the same as Bucky Irving, who's like a Jahmyr Gibbs. And then no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, no Jalen McMillan. And Sterling Shepard is fine. Tez Johnson is fine. Abuka is great, but it's not the same as, two guys that are potential Hall of Famers and Evans and Godwin when they're healthy. And then Bucky is a top 10 running back when he's healthy. So it's like you're missing out on too many pieces, and again, the defense has probably been the most disappointing thing for Tampa. Normally, we're good at run defense and we're good at pass defense, but lately we just have been just BAD, bad. And again, Baker can throw for some touchdowns, run for some touchdowns, and, scramble for some big first downs, but Baker can't do it all by himself, unfortunately. And Fox punts 46 yards out of bounds at the 15. First down and 10 at the Philly 15. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Obviously, if you look at the Lions roster, it looks like it could be the best over, the Bears and the Packers. And the Packers, you don't really know what version of Green Bay is going to show up week in and week out. One week they look like they're a playoff contender, and then the next week they look like a fucking pretender, and they look terrible. And then the Bears, you don't really have anything negative to say about them. I mean, they started off slow, but they've gotten hot, and the main reason, Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, is their head coach and play caller. And again, it's not like the Bears roster has all these amazing players on it. Again, they're just believing in Ben Johnson. And again, we'll see how that division kind of shakes out. Oh, yeah, Puka's great. Yeah, I don't know. McMillan, if McMillan comes back, it's not going to be till the end of the year. And, Godwin and Bucky are sounds like they're getting close, but we don't want to rush them back. And they re-aggravate an injury, and then they're out for the whole year. Yeah. Plus, I mean, if the game was in Seattle, right, instead of in Los Angeles, maybe Seattle wins that game. But again, that's going to happen to Darnold. Most of the time he's going to be good, but every once in a while you're going to have a clunker. And again, you have to understand the Rams and the Hawks are top 5 in defensive categories. So when you've improved that dramatically on defense, sometimes you're going to get your ass kicked, and the Rams defense is, it was good last year. They almost beat Philadelphia in the playoffs, right? They were already a good team last year. They added Devontae Adams and obviously a few other key pieces. And, to me right now, the Rams might be the only team that if they played Philly in the playoffs could probably beat them. I don't know if anyone else in the NFC could beat Philly besides the Rams. They look like the only team that can match up player for player at this point. But again, we'll see how it looks another month and a half from now with injuries and everything else. But those are looking like the two best teams in the NFC right now. And then obviously the Broncos and the Patriots and the Colts are the top dogs in the AFC. Second down and 2 after that 8-yard run there by Barkley. And Barkley with a spin move, 1-yard run. And now it's third down and 1 at the Philly 41. Yeah, Verse is a beast. Stafford is an MVP candidate, even though he's an old guy. It's true. He is. But again, anyone that watched the Rams last year already knew that would be the team that would be the front runner to win the division, just like Tampa in the South and the Eagles in the East. And you assumed it would be Detroit, based on how they played last year. But obviously the Ben Johnson loss is far more detrimental than they're willing to admit. And no gain. Fourth down and 1 at the Philly 41. Yeah, I mean, again, we could have thought Stafford's career might have been over a couple years ago, but again, finding enough, supporting cast, and also Sean McVay is a genius. Again, we know him and Kyle Shanahan are very bright minds, on calling plays, but obviously Shanahan can't really coach in the fourth quarter, and they've had a lot of injuries like the Buccaneers as well, so no one really expects the Niners to do anything this year with the injuries. And we got a false start there on Philadelphia. Yeah, I mean, realistically, the Rams will beat the Buccaneers more than likely, unless, the Bucs get like a pick six, a fumble for a touchdown, a blocked punt, or Bucky comes back with Godwin, or something of that nature. And then maybe we could, make it a little bit more competitive. But if we play like we played against the Patriots and the Bills, we have zero chance against the Rams. Again, they're just too much. Regardless if we're at home or on the road, they are locked in. And they're probably the best looking team in the NFC right now besides Philly. And again, Philly's offense doesn't really look that great this year. They were great last year, but Saquon and A.J. Brown aren't really doing shit this year. And Jalen isn't really on, target with his weapons. It's really the, defense that's winning a lot of the games for them. And then the offense does just enough with Jalen Hurts, to win games. And again, they're a great team, but they're not as good as the Super Bowl team last year. So... yeah. Yeah, you can still be a Seahawks homer and recognize, what's happening, And again, you have one touchdown pass by Darnold, you win. You make the field goal late in the game, you win, even with 4 picks. And again, normally when you go 0 touchdowns and 4 picks, you lose by 20. You lost by 2. So that also shows you how great the defense is for Seattle this year. Much improved. O-line, much improved. Defense, much improved. And again, it's just about finding the right players at the right time. And, some games are going to be flawless and, other games are, going to be ugly. And, and it sucks when you end up having an ugly game with your quarterback against your rival, but it happens. They know you inside and out. And that's why you're going to usually get the most competitive games when it's Seahawks, Niners, Seahawks, Rams. Not necessarily Seahawks, Cardinals, because the Cardinals stink. But every once in a while, the Cardinals will split with those teams, if they get lucky once in a while. But we know the Cardinals are little brothers. So, but at the end of the day, Seahawks, Rams, Buccaneers, Eagles, Lions, you would assume, and then Bears or Packers are going to make the playoffs. And, we'll see what happens when those teams make it. But if you're a Seahawks fan overall, you have to be happy on how the team is doing. Again, it's very easily, if the defense wasn't playing well and the O-line was bad, it's easy to say that the Seahawks could have gone 7-10, or 8-9 or 9-8 this year, but they took a big leap, maybe a year early or maybe even 2. So 16-6 Philadelphia. If you would have, asked a lot of the Seahawks fans at the beginning of the year, what your record would be, after 9-10 games in, I think almost 99.999% Hawk fans would be, excited with the record that they have. It's almost like unbelievable, with the record that you have compared to last year. But again, you've had some pretty good improvements on the O-line and the defense. And again, if you have a good O-line and a good defense, it definitely equates to wins. First down and 10 here for Goff, who's looked terrible today. And incomplete short left to Gibbs. And again, if you're going to run the screen pass, you got to have a better pass than that. But it definitely feels like the NFC is the stronger conference with more well-balanced teams. He's like, you got the Broncos, the Pats, and the Colts at the top. Then you got a bunch of pretenders, with the Steelers and the Jags and a few other teams, below. Maybe the Bills, even though their defense is a little shaky, they're legit, but their defense is not very good. So it's like, if Josh Allen plays good, you win. If Josh Allen plays bad, you lose. That's typically how it goes. Also, if Cook has a good game, you win. If he doesn't, you lose. Shotgun set. And Goff steps up, batted down, and complete. Intended tight end is Brock Wright. Jordan Davis says, nah, not today. 3rd down and 10 at the Detroit 15. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the Dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. And we'll be doing the Cowboys and the Raiders tomorrow, Blazers on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the Texans and the Bills on Thursday. And 3rd down and 10. Jared Goff, deep middle to Jameson Williams. Finally, someone getting something there. There we go, Jameson. First down, Lions. Nice job by Jared Goff to Jameson Williams. And obviously with Sam Laporta's injury, that definitely is going to open the door for Jameson Williams to be able to take some of those targets. Reflect with a 3-year. Appreciate you. Every dollar counts. Stacks. Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Appreciate you. Man in motion. Play action fake. Eagles bring blitz. And pass incomplete to Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the schedule this year, I don't think anyone anticipated the Colts and the Patriots being as good as they are. Broncos have a great defense, and, we knew that, Bo Nix would have a chance to be able to win that division this year. But yeah, definitely the schedule has not been in our favor. It's probably one of the worst schedules for us with injuries, maybe ever. And again, I've been watching this team for a long, long time, 30 plus years, and I'm not really sure if I've seen a schedule, that's kind of not very favorable for us, with the teams that we have to play. And it's one thing when you play like one playoff team, but then when you play like another and another and another, and you play like 4 or 5 playoff teams in a row, like Jesus Christ, like can we get, where's our fucking Dolphins? Where's our fucking Cardinals, our Raiders or Cowboys or bullshit easy game? Where's our easy game, But again, once we get past that tough stretch and we get healthy, then we should be able to be good to go the rest of the way. So I guess it's better to have the games now in the middle of the season rather than at the very end, and we drop like 3-4 games in a row and go, 0-3, 0-4 towards the end, and then we, get dumped in the first round in the playoffs. So, the schedule definitely has not been fair, but as long as we can get past this tough stretch, and then hopefully we'll be able to dominate the rest of the way. And Fox punts it 38 yards there. Gibson with the fair catch. Yeah, I mean, I think every Bucs fan understands. I mean, if you can't stop the run and you can't stop the pass, and then the offense is not 100%, yeah, I mean, the chance of us beating the Rams is slim to none, but we got to be able to see what we got moving forward after that. I mean, Christ, Patriots, Bills, and Rams, but then we got Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Panthers. So legitimately, we can win every game after the Rams game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can go 6-0. So it's just a really tough stretch right here, and again, it's been a tough year. Eagles, Seahawks, Niners, Lions, Saints, only one bad team in the first, initial, stretch after week 4. Falcons, Texans, Jets. It started off easy early, and then it got difficult. Eagles, Seahawks, Niners, Lions, 4 tough opponents in a row. Then Saints, easy. And then Patriots, Bills, Rams, 3 tough opponents in a row. And again, it's like, it's not really common, to have 4 tough and 3 tough in a single schedule, but that's where we're at. But we have 6 easy games that will be trap games for us that we could go 6-0 after the Rams. So if we, drop that game, and end up going to 6-5, right? We could end up winning the rest, and go 12-5. So Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Panthers. We shouldn't lose any of those games. I mean, obviously those Panther games are going to be very clutch, if we want to win the division as well. Third down and 1 after that 7-yard run, tush push. And I don't think they got it. 4th down and 1 at the Philly 29. Yeah, Tucker is great, for a third option back. And honestly, he should be getting carries over Rachaad White as the lead back if Bucky is out, in my opinion, but it's like I still like Rachaad White, to be able to get some touches, but, Tucker gives you a little bit more. But it shows you how the NFL is, you can have the players, but if you don't have the right coach calling the plays, you're fucked, right? And then you can have the right coach, but not the right players, and you're fucked. Like, you got to be able to have everything line up, to be able to be a dominant team. And obviously the schedule has not been kind to us in 2025. 4 straight hard games and then a break with 1 game and then another 3, tough games. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen a Bucs schedule that difficult. Eagles, Hawks, Niners, Lions, and then Saints easy, and then a bye week, and then Patriots, Bills, Rams. Like, that stretch of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, that might be the toughest stretch the Bucs have ever had, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a schedule that difficult in like a 2-month stretch where the only easy game is the Saints and every other game is like insane. Like, but it does get easy the rest of the 6 weeks after the Rams. So again, if we do drop to 6-5, we're going to win 6 in a row and go 12-5 and, hopefully get hot at the right time. So. And good defense there by the Lions. Turnover on downs. Jalen Hurts can't get there. First down and 10, and you're down by 10. I mean, it's crazy. Again, it's like you started off Falcons, Texans, Jets, garbage teams, but then Eagles, Hawks, Niners, Lions, Saints, garbage. Patriots, Bills, Rams, like, again, and I've been watching this team for 30 plus years. I've never seen a 2-month stretch as hard as that. And I don't think anyone in the NFL has got a harder stretch in a 2-month period than the Buccaneers this year. And again, if we didn't have the injuries, I think that, half of those games that we lost, we wouldn't have, we, instead of being 6-4, we'd be probably 8-2 right now, but injuries are a part of the game, right? Can't predict when they're going to happen and how long they're going to be injured for. So Goff with the little spin move and complete. But also too, sometimes you can't predict on certain teams being good. Like, I don't know if anyone anticipated the Patriots, being as good, this year. Obviously, the Colts as well. Bears, no one anticipated that, Yeah, it also depends on, where you finish, the season and who you match up in the division the following year. Since it rotates every year, you play the AFC West one year, then it goes to the AFC South, and then the AFC South to the AFC East. So you're always going to be rotating every year, and sometimes you're just going to have, a tougher, stretch, playing tougher teams. And they say that is pass incomplete. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Nakobe Dean. Yum, 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 yum. Four out of the last 6 are at home for us as well, so. Third down and 17 here for Jared Goff, who's been pressured and bothered this whole game. And pass in the middle of the field, incomplete. And the Eagle secondary and linebacking core are way too disciplined for throws like that. Fourth down and 17 at the Philly 36. And again, if Dan Campbell is the one calling offensive plays and being the head coach, there's a reason why they're not being very effective. It shows you how great Ben Johnson truly is. Dan Campbell calling plays over Ben Johnson. Ay, ay, ay. I wouldn't even have Campbell calling any play whatsoever, offense or defense. You got to be able to get someone that, knows this team better than him. At least calling play wise. You can still be the leader in the face of the franchise, but calling plays, my God. Now we're winning the division. We can still finish 12-5. It's just, again, Eagles, Seahawks, Niners, Lions, Saints, Patriots, Bills, Rams. One easy team in 2 months. The Saints. You know, I mean, even the Niners are still kind of floating around, you know, with their injuries, but you know. But again, it does give us a chance to be able to, you know, at least, you know, finish strong. I mean, imagine if we would have had the schedule at the end of the year. You know, if it was like, you know, Eagles, Seahawks, Niners, Lions, Patriots, Bills, Rams at the end, we would be fucked. You know, like that could, you know, pretty much eliminate us from making the playoffs, depending on what our record was coming in to that last stretch. So field goal is up and good. 54-yarder there. 16-9 Philadelphia. Oh, Rams and Bucks Sunday night. And 65-yard punt or kickoff, touchback to the 35. I imagine the Lions players are probably wishing Ben Johnson was still there. Sometimes you don't really appreciate what you have until it's gone. And again, the Lions will never be the same without him. I mean, unless they find another Ben Johnson type. Agreed. I mean, you could argue the Rams might be the best team, you know, even though the Eagles have a great record and look like they're going to improve to 8-2. But, you know, based on the inefficiency of the offense of Philadelphia, you know, it kind of feels like the Rams are the better team, but at least of right now, you know, but again, we know how great Philadelphia is on, you know, defense and special teams, you know, and as long as you have Jalen Hurts, you know, you're always going to, you know, be that threat. But maybe this is the year that the Rams end up clipping them and maybe the Rams make the Super Bowl this year. That wouldn't shock me one bit, as great as their defense is. You know, it could end up being some wild Super Bowl like Rams versus Broncos, defense versus defense. You know, it could be something like that. Very possible. I don't know who really America would be rooting for if it was Rams and Broncos, but it would definitely be a weird Super Bowl. But, you know, obviously if you have defense wins games, defense wins championships. Little short game there. And another timeout called. (16-9) Philadelphia. Both offenses looked very ugly today. And it's not because we had rain or snow or sleet or hail, but the play calling and the, situational football, could have been much, much better. You expect a hell of a lot more from two teams that were as good as they were last year, and both teams are worse this year than they were last year, but Philly's still, a Super Bowl favorite. Detroit, maybe not so much anymore. Detroit playoff team, but maybe not Super Bowl contender. I mean, you got the Rams and the Eagles looking like Super Bowl contenders, and maybe the Broncos at this point. And obviously the Patriots, look pretty solid on both sides of the ball as well. But we'll see how the last month and a half goes. A lot could happen between now and then. 5-yard penalty with the false start. Yeah, especially when we play them twice in these last 6 games. So after, obviously the Rams matchup. And obviously if we win the Rams matchup somehow, some way, we could win 7 in a row, and then we would win 13 games, after having one of the toughest schedules in the middle of the season. So flag on the play. I mean, winning against the Rams could springboard us, to get extremely hot, to try to get a push to the NFC Championship game. But again, if the Rams play the defense that we know they can play, could be really ugly, unless Baker, can will us to victory and the defense actually shows up with some pick sixes or fumbles for touchdowns. Like, we're going to need extra help to win, other than just the offense. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, terrible call by the referees there. And you got to think the Rams almost beat the Eagles last year. I mean, they were very, very close last year, and the team is much better this year with Davante Adams at wide receiver. They just need Davante and Puka not to have any injuries. Stafford is great, but really what is the showcase of that team is the defense, just like the Broncos and their defense with Nick Benito. It's like, if you can get an offense as close to the defense as possible, then you're going to be able to do something special. And as good as the Eagles offense and the Broncos offense is, it's not as good as the Rams offense this year. Feels like that might be the team to beat. And the Bucs will have an opportunity to get an upset against a very good Ram team on Sunday night. 2-yard run there by Saquon Barkley. Campbell with the coverage. 3rd down and 8 at the Philly 47. Yeah, it's a damn shame that we weren't able to have Evans, Godwin, Jalen McMillan and Tez and Sterling Shepard and Ibuka all play together with Bucky and Sean Tucker and Rachaad White. I mean, can you imagine if we were actually able to have all our weapons for one game, like what we could do, and on the O-line and the defense? I mean, obviously at that point, then Sterling Shepard and Tez wouldn't even be playing, And then the guy that would be coming in to get some looks would probably be McMillan based off the depth chart, after obviously Evans, Godwin, and Ibuka. So, and we can't forget about Cade Otton as well. Timeout Philadelphia. Chief O'Chief in the building. What's good, brother? Tough losses for a lot of us. Seahawks lost, Bucks lost, Chiefs lost, and it's rough, man, And again, every game is going to be a battle the rest of the way. What's good, Chief O'Chief? And an 8-yard gain there by Saquon Barkley. And now 1st down and 10 at the Detroit 45. And now the game is over. And even though the Eagles are going to win 16-9, it kind of feels like the Eagles are winning like 26-9 or 36-9. It definitely wasn't as close as what the score shows. You know, the Eagles offense sometimes is a disaster. The Lions offense without Ben Johnson is a fucking disaster. And you got no Sam Laporta either, but no, Chiefs losing doesn't make anything better for the Buccaneers. I mean, we know the Chiefs were the top dogs, you know, for quite a few years. And, you know, at some point, you know, the Bills and the Chiefs and the Ravens, you know, either going to have injuries or they're just going to slide down the pecking order. Final score, Eagles 16, Lions 9. We were hoping for a little bit more offense, but it definitely was a defensive-oriented game. And, yeah, I mean, Bucks and Bills were great, you know, offensively, back and forth, but there was no fucking defense, you know, and obviously most people enjoy offense more than defense. I get it, you know, but it sucks when you can't stop the run or stop the pass and whatnot. So, but again, we will be live for the Cowboys and the Raiders tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have more people show up and show some love. And then we'll be doing Blazers on Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday, we'll be doing the Texans and the Bills. Friday, we'll see. As well as obviously Saturday. And then obviously Sunday, we'll have the Rams and the Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football. So love you guys, and I appreciate you guys very much. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the Dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. And maybe the only positive thing for us, you know, here today in the Pacific Northwest is Josh Naylor signing a 5-year deal with the Mariners pending physical. So at least we get a stud coming back to the Mariners. Obviously, Blazers lost, Buccaneers lost. So this might be the only W that I get here today. So happy that we get Naylor back. That might be the only positive thing, you know, here for us Mariner fans and Pacific Northwest fans here. So appreciate you guys. And I got one question for you. Who you know talk sports like us? Your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics. We'll be doing Raiders and Cowboys tomorrow. I'll see you guys there, and I'm out. Gang.